ESPN is driven by Auto Centers Nissan, home of the lifetime warranty and 30-day return. We want in your head 24 hours a day. The 101 ESPN app in your App Store or Google Play. Live from the Car Shield studio, this is the opening drive on 101 ESPN.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday from the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis, where it's 7 o'clock. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Danny Mack is here. Bradford Bruns in for Matthew Rocchio. Brooke is out for her nuptials, which will take place tomorrow, and she will be back with us in about 10 days or so. She's going on her honeymoon, too. So we are with you for the next 3 hours. Danny, good morning.
Good morning, Randy. How we doing?
Doing well. Looking forward to talking to BattleHawks special teamer Chris Garrett coming up at the bottom of this hour. A special summer edition of Joey V coming up at 8:15.
What do you think that's going to be like?
I think Joey V is going to be charged up and have a lot to say.
Yeah, probably nothing about hockey.
No. Stanley Cup Finals do start tomorrow here on 101
That's why we got him on.
Yeah, so he'll have something. We'll give him one bone about the hockey.
I would imagine with all those kids, you got to sign them up for some camps.
Oh, yeah.
You got to give yourself a break at home. Camps.
And Joey and his bride are spectacular about getting those kids down to Disney.
Oh, okay.
And so we'll ask if they've done the Disney thing yet. It's only June 7th. So they probably will do the Disney thing here in the next couple of weeks.
Did you guys do that with your kids?
No.
Ooh, we did, and it was exhausting.
Oh, did it not every year like they do. We did. We never did Disney World. Did Disneyland.
Okay.
But, yeah, it is exhausting.
Which is the one down in Florida?
That's Disney World.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
We did a stop. No, we did a stop by Disneyland, too, but it was just a quick stop.
Yeah.
Nothing like 4 or 5 days where you're just walking away beat up and exhausted.
I'll say this. The food prices at the Disneys are not bad.
Really?
Yeah, no, it's not outrageously expensive. It's like going to a restaurant.
I thought this was one of your sarcastic moments on the show.
Credit to Disney. Now, we are not Disney employees, we'll have you know, so this isn't kissing up to the bosses. We are an ESPN affiliate, but we aren't owned by ESPN. We're owned by Hubbard Radio. So, yeah, I give, although I did, I believe, get tickets for Disney from somebody from ESPN.
Let's qualify this right now.
But that being said, I thought that the food prices were reasonable there.
Okay, all right. I'm a little surprised you said that, but I'll take your word for it because I don't remember because I was exhausted.
Yeah, I know. It's easy to get exhausted. And then we're going to talk to our buddy Chris Zimmerman, president of the Blues, coming up in the 9 o'clock hour as well. Tough one for the Cardinals last night. They fall in the opener of a 4-game series to the Rockies 3-2. And yes, I think it's fair to say the sky is falling, but the Cardinals just have to win the next 3.
I'm not there yet. Although I do think they need to take 3 of 4. Mm-hmm. The way I look at it, Randy, is that you're going to have some clunkers along the way. Unfortunately, they've had too many this year. Last night was a clunker. Sonny Gray, his last 5 starts, just 26 1/3, and he's allowed 13 runs. And that's a trend going in the wrong direction. You figure that when he's on the mound, especially against a lesser team, that's the one that you kind of put in the win column and you say, you're going to win this game. And they didn't last night. And he looks a little out of whack to me.
He does. And, Dan, I need you to tell me that this is too small a sample size, okay? We'll have 100 games left after tonight. We're 62 games in. Sonny Gray with Wilson Contreras behind the plate. 4 games, 25 1/3, a 1.07 earned run average with 5 walks in those 25 1/3. With Ivan Herrera behind the plate, 25 1/3 innings, same amount of innings in 5 games for Herrera, 4 for Contreras. 2.84 earned run average with Herrera, 1.07 with Contreras. 11 walks with Herrera, 5 for Contreras. And notable that Colorado did run wild last night. And
that's more of the concern for me.
I love Ivan Herrera, and I know he's working his butt off. But you played college baseball, and the reason that you didn't play Major League Baseball is because you didn't have the ability.
Correct.
some people just don't have as much ability as others. Nobody's going to be Yadier Molina.
Wait, I think you just took a shot at me and my ability.
Well, no, you had great college Lindenwood Lion ability.
I'm the first to tell you I was awful.
Okay, good. I don't think, in talking to people over at the ballpark, my impression is that they, as hard as Ivan Herrera is working at this and trying to throw runners out, it just ain't going to happen for him.
No, I wonder if part of this is that if you're Sonny Gray or any pitcher on the staff, when you get a runner on, how much you rush towards the plate. How do you get mechanically out of whack? And I don't know the answer to that, but it does make me think that you do get a little out of whack. I also talk about in these situations, calling games. Are you giving the option to the pitchers that they want to see? Now, ultimately, it's on the pitcher, right? You get the L, you get the W, you make the decision on what you want to throw, but is he putting down the situational type signals that you want? Those are all things about a young catcher that you learn from, but I am more concerned about his inability to throw runners out. And again, Colorado was aggressive on the bases, and I think we'll see that with any team. If you even have a marginal runner, an average runner, why not start them against the Cardinals when Herrera's behind the plate?
Yeah.
You probably should.
Yeah, and it's one of the rare instances in baseball now where you aren't stealing on the pitcher, you're stealing on the catcher.
Absolutely, and that's the situation right now with Herrera. And I know they're, like to your point that you said earlier, I know they're working on it. I know they're working on his footwork. I know they're working on his release and his pop time. All that stuff is being worked on. However, it's not translating into a game, and teams are going to take advantage of that in a big way, and we've been seeing that with Contreras out. By the way, pretty good news with Contreras. He's I mentioned this yesterday. I think he's going to be back sooner rather than later of what we thought. And Tommy Edman is starting to take BP2. I do think that's a factor because of the lack of production they've had from center field. So a couple of positives in the box there for the Cardinals. But last night was really a clunker at the ballpark.
And Steven Matz threw 2 scoreless innings last night for Memphis. Gallegos also appeared. He allowed 3 runs, including a homer, but those guys are getting healthier. The Cardinal offense couldn't really string anything together. They scored a couple in the 6th on a ground out and a Ciani base hit, but they couldn't touch Cal Quantrill, and the Cardinal offense, again, doesn't provide the Cardinals close to enough to win with.
They went 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Randy, they left 11 men on in the game last night. So overall right now, they are hitting .210 this season with runners in scoring position, and they're averaging under 4 runs a game. That's 14th in the National League. So I think the focus, probably rightfully so, gets put on the 5th starter, and it gets put on what are you going to do to get to the big 3, the middle portion of the relief corps. But don't overlook this offense. Now, when they went in that run and they were 12-3 in 15 games, you didn't question the offense. Guys were producing, guys were coming through, and that's why you were winning games, mixed in with good pitching. But don't overlook what's happening with this offense right now, because it hasn't been great.
And your centerpiece player, and I know the Cardinals have a lot of good offensive players, but your centerpiece player is supposed to be Paul Goldschmidt. And Paul Goldschmidt has a .650 OPS, and he's hitting less than, I'll give you his latest batting average. It's 222 after last night's game with an OPS of .650. And they hit him 3rd last night. And again, we're 61 games into the season. I think we have enough of a sample size, and I have a ton of respect for Paul Goldschmidt. But I think we've reached a point now where you've got to drop him down and you got to put somebody else up there, because the Cardinals have enough good young hitters hitting that I think the top 5 in their lineup should look different.
Thinking about that last night, not that this is desperate and you're at desperate measures, and I think that if you're Ali, you're very, very slow to make a move with this because of the track record. They've earned that track record. Talking about, I'll throw even Arenado in there too.
They've earned the respect. They've earned the benefit of the doubt.
Right. And but at some point, though, it's got to be on the table to get your best hitters up at the top of the lineup. And I'm with you. It's mediocrity at this point with this club, hovering around 500. Again, last night a clunker, and you're not producing much offensively. And this is one of the things I wanted to talk about is we're going to go through our storylines of the season, but I'll pull back the curtain, if you will, here, Randy. Arenado and Goldie, I keep saying it, and it's not like this outlandish statement. They've got to be Arenado and Goldie.
Yeah.
You know, you can have the young guys sprinkled in, which they do. Wynn has played well. Gorman is hitting the ball. Burleson. But the cornerstones of this offense are Arenado and Goldschmidt, and when they don't hit or they don't produce, it's just not the way that this is set up to be for 2024.
And again, they've earned, at least from me, they've earned the benefit of the doubt. And I know that both of them regressed last year, and it hasn't been great this year. We are getting to that point where we say Father Time is undefeated.
Yeah, a little bit. And there's regression there. You got one that's 34. The other one is 36. And usually this is when you start to decline. Now, what you're hoping, it's not the precipitous decline that you've seen a little bit with these guys in the power numbers, and that over the course of a season they get hot. And doesn't it seem like when they've been together, they're never hot at the same time?
We've had like a month, I think.
Yes, it's just one of those oddities. And Arenado's in his fourth season in St. Louis, where it just you look at those guys being hot together, 1 and 2. I don't care which one you want to put in front of the other, but you need them to be the type of guys that when you look at the back of the baseball card, for the most part, they're consistent through a season, and we just haven't had that so far this year.
And I think one thing the Cardinals can do here, and baseball is a very tight-knit fraternity, and people are willing to help people out, and I think you have to be willing to think outside the box. Barry Bonds had his best season at 39, so why not have our players talk to him about what helped him get to his highest level when he was 39 years old?
I'm lost. How did that happen?
I don't know, but Dan, he had a 1.422 OPS.
Oh my God! At 39,
at 39, he hit 362. Batting average was 362, 609 on base, 812 slug, 45 homers, 101 RBIs.
It wasn't the enhancers. I'm telling you, it just wasn't those enhancers. It was just one of those oddities in baseball where guys just get better when they're 38, 39, 40 years old.
And by the way, he did have, he had played 14 years. His 15th year at age 36, he had his best year also.
That's unbelievable. Go back to the OPS just for a second.
Okay.
You said 1.422
at the age of 39.
God.
So he goes from, I'll give you from age 33, 1.047 OPS, great Hall of Fame, 1.006, 1.127. Then we get to age 36 in 2001. That's when he hit the 73 homers with a 1.379. Then a 1.381 OPS with 46 homers and 110 ribs. And then a 1.278. And then the career high 1.422 at the age of 39.
One of the things I'm curious about, I really want to get your thoughts on this, and I mean this sincerely as a question. You know, some people say, well, he was a Hall of Famer before he started taking enhancing drugs. When did that happen? How do we know?
Well,
I mean, obviously his body changed.
When his head got big.
Okay.
I do.
You know what I'm saying, though?
And it was written, the guys from Van Natta and Seth Wickersham, I think, wrote the book.
Don Van Natta.
Yeah, about how he was at dinner with Ken Griffey, and he was mad about McGuire hitting the 70 home runs and getting all the adulation. And it was
so maybe 98,
after
99.
the 98 season, yeah.
Okay.
And then he takes off, and in 99, here's a guy that had hit 37 home runs, and he only hit 50 once, but he goes from 37 home runs at the age of 33, 34 in 1999, and then 49, 73, 46, 45, 45.
Wow. Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah, it is.
It just, you took the perfect player and injected him with performance-enhancing drugs. Allegedly. And he becomes a monster on the baseball field. Yeah. I mean, people would always say, what would happen if you had this perfect baseball player and you were able to give him enhancers? There's your answer. There's your answer.
Yep, no doubt. Other action last night in the NL Central. Reds over the Cubs 8-4. Dodgers took care of the Pirates 11-7, and Milwaukee was off last night. Game 1 of the NBA Finals heard here on 101 ESPN. The Celtics just drubbed the Mavs 107-89. Celtics lead the series 1-0. They were up by 17 after a quarter. 21-point halftime lead, the third biggest halftime lead in NBA Finals history. And the Celtics roll with Kristaps Porzingis scoring 20. 107-89 was the final.
I think this maybe answers some questions about Boston having an easy road to the finals. Now you're taking on Dallas. You do it at home, clearly, but they dominated that game. Tatum and Brown, in my mind, the best forward tandem in the league right now. Kyrie Irving, in watching his handles, I can't think of a better guy with handles like him.
Best ever.
It's incredible. And then the Celtics combination of shooting threes, being able to open up lanes and drive the basketball. And watching that game, they are just balanced. But the three-point shot makes such a factor for them.
It's remarkable to watch these two teams both play, because Luka and Kyrie versus Brown and Tatum. It's fantastic, and we'll have Game 2 on Sunday here on 101 ESPN. Speaking of Sunday, the BattleHawks play the San Antonio Brahmas for the the XFL Conference Championship in the UFL on Sunday night, 6 o'clock at the Dome. We're going to talk to the Special Teams Player of the Year, Chris Garrett of the BattleHawks, at the bottom of this hour. And tomorrow, City SC hosts Portland at 7:30. The Portland Timbers are in town.
So busy weekend of sports here in St. Louis. I think what's going to be interesting is the crowds at the ballpark, and you're going head-to-head with some of these other sports, or what do people do? Do they just make it a full day Saturday and Sunday to be downtown and watch the St. Louis sports franchises in action?
Yeah, tomorrow can be incredible because 3:15 Cardinals, 7:30 soccer.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday, 1:15 Cardinals, 6 o'clock football. So opportunities to hit the doubleheader for many, many people.
Have you heard what the crowd may be on Sunday for the UFL?
I've heard upwards of 40. That's the last I heard.
Okay.
We'll try to check during the course of
All
the
right.
show. By the way, is there a more fun doubleheader in St. Louis than a Cardinal opening day headed to a Blues playoff game?
Nope.
Nope, that's as good as it gets,
It's
isn't
as
it?
good as it gets.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, day game, playoff game, and then go to a night game of baseball.
Yeah.
It does sometimes happen.
Yeah, it's a weekend.
Yes.
Yeah, those are fun.
We
Those
need
are
to work
great.
on that again next season.
Yeah, we need to make that
right.
happen. By the way, it was fun when the Rams were good too, and we would have what was it? 2000 when we played the Mets in the NLCS, having a Rams home game with the greatest show on turf, and then heading on over to a nighttime Cardinal LCS game. That was fun.
Assuming you did that a bunch.
Yeah, during the greatest show on turf era, that was great.
I remember covering a Rams game that was awful when McGuire hit 70. It was a Sunday afternoon.
Tony Banks.
He was awful.
So everybody in the stadium, if you
I'm
aren't
like,
aware
why
of
the
this,
hell am I here? I want
Yeah.
to go watch McGuire.
This is 1998. Everybody in the stadium has a radio so that they can hear McGuire
I'm one of them.
Yeah, last game of the season. And when McGuire he hit 69 earlier in the game. He hits number 70. The crowd explodes. The Rams have the ball.
Right.
And Tony Banks has to call timeout.
It was great. It was great.
Unbelievable.
And they were so bad. They were terrible.
Tony Banks was their quarterback. Need we say anything more?
I felt so bad for Isaac because Tony wouldn't check down on anybody. He would just look for Isaac on every single route, and he would just get pounded every game.
In 96, in Tony Banks' rookie year, Isaac caught over 100 for the second consecutive year. But DeMarco would do this in 95 and 96. He would stand on the sideline as he was watching the Rams offense perform and yell to the opposing defense, "It's going to number 80. We don't have anybody else."
And Banks wouldn't check down on anybody.
No, he had tunnel vision. Didn't
Yes. Yes, he did.
And by the way, Tony has grown up. He's a mature guy living in Dallas. He's great, and he's doing well. And he wasn't given the opportunity to mature here.
That's probably the best way to put it.
Yep. Coming up, the Cardinals will have 100 games left after tonight's game. Some storylines with 100 games left coming up on 101 ESPN.
The NBA Finals are on ESPN. This Sunday, Celtics and Mavericks Game 2. Pregame at 6. Tip-off at 7. Your home for the NBA is 101 ESPN.
Hey, if you're a burgeoning business owner here in St. Louis, you need to listen to this because NetSuite's Business Grows Here event is coming to St. Louis on Thursday, June 27th. Why St. Louis? Well, because NetSuite knows St. Louis is a hub for entrepreneurs with forward-thinking founders, a top talent pool, and pro-business leadership. Apply to attend the business event of the year taking place at the Union Station Hotel on Tuesday, June 27th. You'll learn how Missouri is paving the way for new business growth and capital and see how technology fueled by AI is shaping the way we grow and run our businesses. And you're going to be inspired by business leaders like Jamie Siminoff. He's the founder of Ring Video Doorbell, and he is headquartered his next company right here in St. Louis. NetSuite by Oracle's Business Grows Here is free to attend if you qualify. Apply right now to find out because seats are going quickly. Block out your calendar for Thursday, June 27th. And apply at netsuite.com/Missouri. That's NetSuite, NETSUITE, netsuite.com/Missouri.
This is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Sumner One.
It's the opening drive. Danny Mac and Randy Karraker. And coming up at the bottom of this hour, BattleHawks special teamer Chris Garrett will join us. The Cardinals fall 3-2 last night. Cardinals are 29-32 on the season. Tonight is game number 62. And after tonight, the Cardinals will have 100 games left. And Dan, last night, Sonny Gray with a pretty rugged pitching line, 4 2/3. He allows 3 runs on just 2 hits, but he walked 4 and struck out 5. But the key for him was walking those 4 hitters.
That's not the job of a starting pitcher. The job of a starting pitcher is not to go through spurts of great, and then the job is to stay out there for as long as you can and put your team into a position to win. So yeah, like, oh yeah, okay, I struck 4 hitters out in a row. Who cares? It's not the point of a starter. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Sonny Gray mentioned that he did have a similar situation a couple of years ago, about a 5-game stretch in Minnesota where he just lost it and then was able to put it back together. Hey, every single starter, and I've said I don't think that Gray is a number one, and I will stand by that. I would prefer to have somebody else starting a game 1 of a playoff series for him. But do I think he's an exceptional number 2? Yeah, he might be as good a number 2 as there is. And every pitcher, if you go down the game logs of Chris Carpenter, who was an absolute stud, but about once a month, Chris Carpenter would have a dud. He'd just blow up. Every great starter does. It happens. And last night and the last couple have been where Sonny Gray is just out of sorts. But last night isn't a reflection of Sonny Gray. Neither was the no-hit Sonny Gray. It's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is more consistency, and that's what you're expecting. We're talking about trends and storylines. I'll say it again, his last 5 starts, just 26 in the third.
Yeah.
So he's only given you, roughly about 5 innings per start. He's allowed 13 runs. What's problematic to me are the walks, too. And last night we saw that come to the forefront, and that just can't happen from your number one starter.
Dan, do you think the catcher could be a part of this?
I think it could be a factor. I wonder if something physically is not right with Sonny.
Could be too, because 2 starts, maybe it was 3 against Philadelphia. Right. And Ali said he was just having trouble synchronizing his lower body. So I can see that, especially after the hamstring issues of spring training.
Is it a hamstring issue? Not to make excuses. There are no excuses. You either do or you don't, but there could be factors to lead as to why you don't have success. But when he took himself out of the game, I thought there's something not right. Yeah. Now, obviously, that you're saying I'm coming out of the game. When he said he was gassed, maybe he was gassed, but I just look at a guy until the manager tells me you're done pitching, I want the ball. Yeah. And so I just wonder if there's something there, an underlying factor that could be it. I'm going to go on the opposite side, and I'm going to look at what's happening offensively. Talked about this, overall hitting .210 with runners in scoring position, averaging under 4 runs a game, 14th in the National League. Now, part of that, as we kind of advance this story and look forward to maybe some guys coming back, but I think the loss of Nootbaar, Edman, Walker, it's been huge. Contreras, obviously. But I'm going to go looking at the center field position. They had Victor Scott. They had Dylan Carlson, Michael Ciani, Lars Nootbaar. The center field position is hitting 161. So they're not getting production out of that spot. A .217 on base percentage, .210 slugging percentage. I don't know, man. You got to get more out of that center field spot. And I love Ciani defensively. I think he's well above average. He's outstanding. But you got to do it on both sides of the plate. He did have an RBI last night with 2 outs. That was good to see. But overall, they're just not getting a lot of production out of the center field spot.
We got spoiled for 8 years by Jim Edmonds.
Sure did.
Who is a spectacular offensive center fielder. It's hard to find a center fielder that can hit. If you look around baseball, there's not many of them. That's why Aaron Judge is playing center field. It's just hard to find that guy. But that's completely unacceptable. It's really, and I've mentioned it before, I like Michael Ciani's defense so much that I'm willing to have him be my pitcher in a DH era.
Me too.
161 is basically, from the Cardinal center fielders, that's a pitcher.
Yeah, it's just not where it needs to be.
No.
And, you talk about Jimmy, and that's kind of an outlier because we both agree that he could be and probably should be a Hall of Famer. So maybe unfair to compare what we have now on that roster of center fielders, but it's got to be better. You can't have a 161 batting average and only a .217 on base percentage.
And this was supposed to be Dylan Carlson. When they traded Harrison Bader, Dylan Carlson was supposed to be the guy.
Can't understand what's happened with him.
Me either. Dan, of the active Cardinal players in OPS, these are people that are healthy and playing. Nolan Gorman is number 1. Mason Witt is number 2. Alec Burleson is number 3. Arenado is 4. And then Herrera is 5. And Donovan is 6. 6 of the top 7 players that the Cardinals are utilizing right now are, in terms of OPS, are 24, 22, 25, 24, and 27. These are the Kitty Cardinals, and that's the future right there. And they are, granted, they're hitting only .210 as a team, but that is your future right there, and it's playing right now.
And Wynn is hitting .311 to lead the club. Gorman, 14 home runs. He's driven in 31. He's tops on both those categories for the Cardinals. It goes back to, it's the Kitty Cardinals. We're the veteran Cardinals. Where's Arenado? Where's Goldschmidt? Yep. If you had those guys sprinkled in and producing at a high level, man, this offense would look a lot different. Finally, I'm going to look at Romero, Kittredge, Helsley. Combined a 2.35 ERA. They've given the Cardinals 84 innings. That's of concern for me. There's a lot of innings coming from that trio. Can they hold up? Is it sustainable? My answer would be absolutely not. I think you'll start seeing some cracks in the armor, and we have a little bit with Romero on the road trip. Helsley leads leads the majors with 20 saves. Romero, 19 holds. Kittredge with 17. Is that sustainable? Probably not. So you're going to have to look for some type of help, or someone needs to step up in that bullpen.
Ideally, for my purposes, you'd like to have each of those guys throw about 65 innings, which would be 190 roughly for the season. And you're a third of the way through the season. They're on pace for well over 200.
It's not sustainable.
No.
So either you go outside the organization and bring a veteran in, which I'd love to see them do. And it seems like Mo kind of waits until the trade deadline. He's not the first to pull the trigger on a deal. With all the mediocrity right now in baseball and teams hanging around 500 and the wild card, the way it's situated in the game, there are teams, a lot of them, that are believing, hey, if we just hang around, we've got a shot to win. And I wonder if you need to be that first team that gets out there, because the price tag is going to go up for these players, Randy, as you know, is maybe be the first team out there to go address your deficiencies. And again, it's not sustainable with the big three just continuing to pitch as much as they are.
Go to Miami and play a Rector set with Peter Bendix and see if you can come up with a relief pitcher from him.
Crazy. Yeah. I love it.
And he does. So those tonight, game number 62, those are some storylines as the Cardinals have 100 games left. Coming up, it's the XFL Championship at the Dome on Sunday night, and we're going to talk to the Special Teams Player of the Year in the UFL. Chris Garrett is next on 101 ESPN.
Coverage of 101 ESPN is presented by Onder Law Injury Lawyers. GetJim.com. Live from the Car Shield Studio, this is the opening drive on 101 ESPN.
Danny Mac and Randy Karraker, the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Back in week 3 of the UFL season, the St. Louis BattleHawks knocked off the San Antonio Brahmas 31-24 at San Antonio. And then last week, here in St. Louis at the Dome, the BattleHawks beat the Brahmas 13-12, a dramatic finish to that one. And the XFL Conference Championship game is Sunday night at the Dome. It's at 6 o'clock. Tickets are still available. Just Google St. Louis BattleHawks. And the BattleHawks will feature the UFL Special Teams Performer of the Year, Chris Garrett, who joins us now here on 101 ESPN. Chris, thanks so much for the time. Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing real good.
Good. Hey, congratulations on the award. What'd you think of winning UFL Special Teams Player of the Year?
I couldn't believe it. I thought they were going to give it to a returner or something like that. But man, it's rare that a player like me gets something like that.
You guys are crazy on special teams, aren't you? I mean, it takes a different mindset to be a special teams player.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Caskey really gets us ready, and it's just a one-down mentality. We really take just one down, win your one-on-one, and fly down the field, make a play.
And of course, Chris, when you were in high school, college, you played by the older rules. How do you like the punt and kickoff setups in the UFL?
I think I really like it because it makes the league unique. And I think the UFL really wants to set themselves apart from the NFL and the Canadian League, and it really makes it unique and entertaining, makes it an offensive-driven league. And I like it. I love it. I definitely like it for the fans.
Anthony Becht has put a premium on special teams. All coaches do, but what is it like? Pull the curtain back in some of the speeches, some of the things that he says to you one-on-one, and what it's like dealing with your head coach, Anthony Becht.
Yeah, I think we don't shy away from any topic that needs to be discussed. We make sure he always makes sure that everything on the field is important. So we pay attention to all the little details. Our theme is this year is details matter, and I think it's true. It's true about this team. It's true about our coach. Coach Caskey does a good job scheming things up, making sure we get it. So then on the field, we're just flying every single time, and it's fun. It's fun to play here.
Chris, you're playing against a team with a veteran NFL head coach in Wade Phillips, and I know he focuses on special teams too. What's the most difficult thing? What's the biggest challenge you'll face special teams-wise in taking on San Antonio Sunday night at the Dome?
Yeah, they're well coached. That's the biggest challenge. It's not so. It's rare to catch them on like little mess ups here and there, but we just at the end of the day, it's just going to be whoever wants it more this game because they well coached, we well coached. We played this is our third time, so whoever wants it more is going to be. That's what it's going to be.
So you got film on 2 games, and then you go back-to-back, which is a rarity in professional football. What kind of adjustments or any adjustments do you make when you look at the film and you just look at the film from a week ago?
I think, like Coach always says, for this one, it's really about watching last game, make the adjustments, we'll make a few tweaks. But the big thing is just dominating, straining, because it's championship ball now. Everybody they know what we got. We know what they got, so we just got to strain and fight for the last couple of yards, and that's going to be the difference.
Chris Garrett is the UFL Special Teams Player of the Year, and he'll be playing before the crowd here in St. Louis Sunday night at the Dome, the XFL Conference Championship. How much of an impact has the crowd made on this home season for you guys, Chris?
Oh, huge impact. Every game that we play home, there's been timeouts or false starts by the offense, and it's crazy. And I feel like you can see the nerves kick in because they realize they can't hear anything. It's pretty spectacular, and it feels like being at home just makes such a difference. So we need everybody to show up for this game.
Now,
everybody.
You know, it's interesting that probably some of the players are represented by the same agent. They become friends throughout the league, not necessarily on the same team. Do guys talk about that throughout the league and what it's like to play here in St. Louis?
Yeah, for sure. Because everybody knows that we got it pretty sweet here in St. Louis, just because by a fan standpoint, just because coming there, you feel like you're in the NFL. Like, the treatment is unbelievable. The fans love us. We get occasional free stuff, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool being in St. Louis, and the whole league knows it.
Chris, I want to talk about the NFL, because generally when we talk to UFL BattleHawks players, we talk about the NFL. And you have a Super Bowl ring from the Rams in 21, played on the practice squads with Minnesota and Seattle. So you have a pretty good idea of the comparison between the NFL and the UFL. From your perspective as a special teams guy, what's the difference?
The difference for me would have to be, it's hard to say, because there's so much in the UFL with the combined leagues. It's a lot more competitive than the UFL or the XFL was. So it's a lot of NFL talent. It's a lot more NFL talent now in the UFL. So I would have to say the difference really is just the guys that are in the NFL and stay in the NFL. They're just more. A lot of guys are more detail-oriented and more professional and know what it takes to stay in the league for a long haul. And that's really who I'm trying to be, honestly.
And a lot of it, Chris, and it's not to say that anybody doesn't have exceptional talent, because you guys are all playing pro football, but a lot of it is right place, right time, right? You have to have equal talent to a guy that's playing in the NFL right now, but he was in right place, right time for the NFL.
Right place, right time. He knew the right guy. He made the right connections and relationships with certain coaches. It all plays a role. It definitely does.
How are you found to play professional football? You played at Concordia St. Paul, and they found you. How did they find you?
I was dominant. I broke some records. I got the D2 forced fumble record. I had so many sacks, and it was just, I got drafted 7th round just because I dominated. I did what I had to do to be seen. Just got to be noticed.
And you know what I know about you? Because I know Les Snead. And I know that when he saw you, he knew that you were addicted to football. I bet you're addicted to football, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, because you have to love the game. And I remember Les telling us a story about Janoris Jenkins, he was going to be a 1st or 2nd round pick. He'd played at Florida. He was a big-time performer. And Les is out watching practice, and a guy like Janoris Jenkins wants to go out and be on special teams in practice, even though he was going to be a high pick in the NFL. You really do have to, especially doing what you do, Chris, you got to love it.
Yeah, you absolutely got to love it. And that's a part of it. Guys who love it more and are more dedicated, they stay around more, and they'll get the opportunities.
Well, we are excited about your opportunity to win the XFL Conference Championship Sunday night at the Dome. Tickets still available, by the way. People can hop online and just Google UFL BattleHawks or go to UFLBattleHawks.com. Get your tickets and fill it up. I know, Chris, you guys want a big crowd for the XFL Championship so that the following week we can play for the big prize in the UFL.
Absolutely. We need everybody there. We need all the St. Louis to show up. It's going to be amazing, unbelievable game. We're going to put on a show. Hopefully it's not as close as it was last time. But, yeah, everybody show up, show out.
All right, Chris, congratulations on being the UFL's Special Teams Player of the Year. Thanks for your time this morning, and we'll see you this weekend at the Dome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care. That is Chris Garrett, UFL Special Teams Player of the Year at the Battle Dome Sunday at 6. Great day of tailgating. It's going to be spectacular outside, and then you can head on in and cheer your BattleHawks on to victory.
Have you ever heard of Concordia St. Paul?
No, I've heard of Concordia Seminary. I don't know if they have a football team.
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of these priests are going out and playing in the UFL.
Close proximity.
Yeah. It's the Concordia Golden Bears. They represent Concordia University. It's in St. Paul, Minnesota, Division II, and they compete in the Northern Sun Conference with 17 varsity sports. So he's played with the Rams, as you mentioned, got a Super Bowl ring. He was a 8th round selection. Minnesota, Seattle, the Houston Gamblers, and now the BattleHawks. Man, you gotta love football, man, to continue to play at this level.
And that was one thing. And look, do I have a whole lot of personal respect for Les Snead? No, but he was doing his job. But he has done a good job since he got to L.A. And that's one of the things he does is he finds those gems late. Now, when they were trying to leave here, he would go into the last day of the draft saying, well, we're going to have some fun, and they would get sucky players. But once he showed his talent for finding players when they were starting to try to win, that's the sort of performer that he found that nobody else knew about.
I always say that if you can play, they'll find you.
Yep.
I don't care where you are in the world. They will, I mean, literally, playing different sports, they'll find you.
Look at London Fletcher.
Exactly.
John Carroll.
It's a perfect example. The Northern Sun Conference. I hadn't heard of that one either.
Me either. No.
And in, let's see, he was born in Milwaukee. He played in Milwaukee. So, yeah, he's played in cold weather places. He probably loves the Dome.
Good for him. Watch him on Sunday night at the Dome. And by the way, the game will be shown on Fox in primetime on Sunday. Dan, Randy, and Bradford, and we've got Take It or Leave It coming up. Get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646. 314-399-YO-HO.
It is a Friday edition.
Oh.
You get one. What kind of do you want?
I want some drama and theater here.
Yo ho. I gave you a little theater
That's
on that.
awesome. Wow. That's what we want, isn't it, folks?
Mixing it up.
Yeah. Send in your text right now, and we're going to play Tioli next on 101 ESPN.
In celebration of We Went Blues Day this Wednesday, June 12th, 101 ESPN is giving away a bunch of signed blues items autographed by some of the current and former blues players who meant so much to that 2019 Stanley Cup championship team. You can enter to win signed jerseys from Colton Parayko and Vladimir Tarasenko, signed pucks from Robert Thomas, and more. Check out all those awesome blues giveaways in celebration of We Went Blues Day going on right now, either at 101ESPN.com or your 101 mobile app. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Gray loses control against Rockies. I'm Bradford Bruns with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londuff Chevrolet and Johnny Londuff Autoplex. Last night at Busch Stadium, the Cardinals dropped their series opener versus last place Colorado 3-2. Sonny Gray issued 4 walks across his 4+ innings, throwing 89 pitches. Counterpart Cal Quantrill allowed 3 hits over 5 frames. This evening, Lance Lynn opposes ex-Redbird Austin Gomber. Meanwhile, 2 notes from Memphis. Steven Matz notches a scoreless appearance. Giovanni Gallegos permits multiple base runners in Omaha. NBA Finals, Boston steamrolls Dallas 107-89. Game 2 unfolds Sunday on 101 ESPN. Tomorrow, you can hear Oilers-Panthers Stanley Cup coverage begins shortly before 7. This Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londuff Chevrolet and Johnny Londuff Autoplex. See them at londuff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
This is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Sumner One. It's time for Take It or Leave It.
Want to say something? Put it out there. If you like it, you can take it. If you don't, send it right back.
Get your text into 314-399-9646 and give us your Take It or Leave It.
Brought to you by Gloria Lou Realty. Visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com and start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
Time for Tioli, Dan, Bradford, and Randy. Bradford in for Matthew Rocchio. Brooke is out. She's getting married tomorrow, so congratulations to her and David. Danny, yesterday, Adam Silver held his State of the League address for the NBA and said that the next order of business for the league is exploring expansion beyond 30 teams. Silver said, quote, "It's not preordained that we'll expand this time, but I know there's an enormous amount of interest out there." He said, "To me, yes, there are wealthy individuals, institutions that would like to invest and buy NBA teams. Take it or leave it. As the largest market without an NBA team, St. Louis business and public, that means government interests, should be all in on bringing the NBA to St. Louis."
I would take that, and I don't think it would ever happen because I bet they would expand internationally if they could, like go to Mexico, go somewhere maybe again in Canada, give Vancouver another shot. That would make some sense to me. I just don't see it happening in St. Louis. And are there enough Fortune 500 companies to support said NBA team?
He has mentioned Seattle and Vegas in the past, and I think the league probably feels like Seattle was done wrong by the NBA ownership. He did mention international, but this is we're seeing it now with the BattleHawks, with the soccer. It's a really good sports market.
And it leads me to this, take it or leave it. Do you think that the NFL folks in higher-ups is what I'm talking about have taken and paid attention to what's happening with the BattleHawks and their crowds?
I'm going to take that, yes, because I think, and I know the president of the Detroit Lions, Rod Wood is his name, and he was just completely uninformed. He didn't admit it, but his quotes admitted that he was completely uninformed about what was happening in St. Louis. So I would think that, yes, the league now, after losing the $790 million in the lawsuit, the settlement, I would think that those owners probably are looking at St. Louis and saying, yeah, did we get snookered here? Mm-hmm. I think they probably realize that now.
Do you think they care, though?
No.
I don't either. I think it may garner their attention, and they look at it and say, oh, that's cool what they're doing in St. Louis. Obviously, they support some football and they like it, but does it mean that we can get more money in our pockets? Probably not. So I doubt that they even care.
They get a share of the $790 million. They get the nearly $1.3 billion in relocation fees that the Chargers and Rams had to pay. And even though most of the ticket revenue is coming from other sources, for example, 49ers fans, Eagles fans, the league is, the owners are still benefiting from that ticket split as well. And if the revenue sharing is working as it's supposed to, the money's going to be even more because they do have the number 2 market.
And the NFL loses a lawsuit to St. Louis. So what would be the appetite of owners to say, oh, let's go back and do some business with these folks?
No, they don't want to. And I don't think St. Louis wants to at the moment either.
I don't either.
Take it or leave it, guys. The BattleHawks will cover the spread in Sunday's conference title tilt. They are favored by 3.
Caw is the law.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take it.
Do you have any reason as to why? I'm going to take it too, and I couldn't tell you one reason why I'm going to take it. Maybe just being at home.
Here's why. Because A.J. McCarron wasn't 100% last week. He was coming off of the ankle injury. He's going to be more healthy this week. Threw a couple of picks that I think were a result of the ankle injury last week. I don't think that the BattleHawks will turn it over as much. And I think Anthony Becht and Bruce Gradkowski held some stuff back from San Antonio last week because they figured, okay, we're playing them next week either way. And I don't think that they have seen the full arsenal that the BattleHawks can deliver.
RK, doesn't it also feel as though Hakeem Butler is primed for a big game on the outside? You can only hold him down for so long. I would venture to say there isn't a more physically gifted player on the outside in that league.
No, you can't. You can only hope to contain him. You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him with Hakeem Butler. So, yeah.
You sound like Chris Berman.
Dan Patrick.
Dan Patrick, that's what it was, yes.
There you go.
Oh, he will be en fuego.
Well played.
Thank you, sir.
From the 314, take it or leave it, the Cardinals should get a jump on the market and make a move for Luis Robert now and then watch as he plays all of 10 games.
I'll take it.
I'm going to leave that just because you have Newpart coming back. You got Tommy Edman coming back. You're covered with Siani and Victor Scott if need be down the stretch. I don't know what it would take to get Luis Robert. By the way, the White Sox lost their 14th game in a row yesterday. So that team is ripe for the plucking.
I wish that we had made another deal with the White Sox. I wish we would have gotten Dylan Cease.
I've never heard you say that.
Yeah, that's the one. And I'm going to leave it too. I think that the Cardinals' needs are elsewhere. And here's what you have to think about. If you're going to give up assets, which you'll have to give up a lot of to get a guy like Luis Robert, that prevents you from going out and getting what you really need, which is, as bad as the offense is, you need pitching.
You need a number 5, looks like, and it's still they were non-committal to the number 5 starter in this series, which would be on Sunday, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is I keep talking about, just to reinforce the point, is that you've got to have somebody outside the big 3, probably 2, to help you bridge the gap from your starter. Just starters aren't going deep. They're giving you 5 innings, which is what we thought going into the season.
Right. And Danny, to your point about the White Sox, they're 6.5 games behind the second worst team in baseball. So you've got the Marlins at 21-41, at 23 games out of the overall lead. The White Sox are 29.5 games out of the overall lead, 6.5 behind team number 29.
Wow. That's how bad it is.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is. I wonder what fans are thinking about Jerry Reinsdorf right now in Chicago and how upset they must be. The fact that he owns that team, and it's awful. It's an awful situation.
I think they've been upset with him for 26 years.
And that's my point. Yeah.
How do you like Eric Fetty, by the way? He's like the new Miles Michaelis from the KBO, and that's not intended as a slight. How quickly could he be moved? It's been really effective for that team.
Yeah, he has been.
Again, if you're going to spend assets, the Cardinals have a number 5. Okay, they've probably got multiple number 5s. They need better. They need front of the rotation help, not back of the rotation help. We keep talking about the number 5 starter because they don't have that, but they really do. The problem is up top in this rotation.
Yeah, and you're thinking about like a Sonny Gray start last night. That's a game you should and have to win.
So your ace is supposed to be win day.
Yep.
Right? Yep. And the Cardinals are 7-4 in Sonny Gray starts.
Take it or leave it. The Cardinals would be playing the exact same way and have the same record if Yachty had been the manager since day 1 of the season.
Take that.
Leave that. I think Ollie's done a good job.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying they wouldn't be. I don't think they'd be any better.
I looked at it the other way. I get confused with this take it or leave it stuff.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes I just need to be brought up to speed because I'm not real bright.
So basically, they were saying that the team would be the same if Yachty were here, right?
Essentially.
As a manager.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll say that they would be, what are they, 29-32? 29, whatever it is, 29-31.
2 games below, I think, 500.
29-31.
I go back to even like 2 days ago, and I say this a lot. I mean, a manager can control the clubhouse to an extent and personalities. That's part of his job. But then the other thing strategically is handling a bullpen. And 2 days ago, Miles Michaelis at 62 pitches, he pulls him. He would have been lambasted the next day if that didn't work out with Romero, Kittredge, Helsley. So he rolled the dice thinking that I need a win in this series, and it paid off. I think he's done a nice job with the bullpen.
And Miles was okay with it. His mom, on the other hand, we just don't know, right? Take it or leave it. Nothing confusing about this one, Dan. Breakfast edition. Propel and grapes or Eggs Benedict, straight up?
Eggs Benedict. Randy's going to go with the Propel and grapes.
Well, Propel and grapes are my mid-morning snack. My breakfast generally is a protein shake.
Did you have one today?
Had one this morning with banana, with Orgain dark chocolate protein powder, a little PB powder, a little cocoa, and then some ice cubes and frozen banana. So, yeah, that's generally what I go with. No, I don't think if it's breakfast, it's Eggs Benedict over grapes every single time.
Yeah, just getting the traditional breakfast is what you're talking about. Give me some eggs, give me some bacon.
Yeah.
Scrambled or fried, I'm fine with that. Maybe give me some French toast, pancakes.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, forget the grapes.
I'm lucky to get one of those chewy bars before leaving in the morning. That's about the extent of it for me.
Yeah, thank you, Bradford.
You're welcome.
And thanks for your text. We do appreciate it. Coming up with the Rockies in town, how's that Nolan Arenado deal looking? That's next on 101 ESPN.
Attention 101 listeners.
You can join Kyle Gibson, Tommy Edmond, Paul Goldschmidt, Ryan Helsley, Nolan Arenado, Steven Matz, and Miles Michaelis
In supporting some amazing causes during Big League Impact's All-Win campaign.
Consider making a donation in exchange for fun prizes and giveaways from Big League Impact. See the full list of foundations and programs being supported by this year's campaign and find all the details on how you can help support this year's All-Win Drive.
With Big League Impact, now at 101ESPN.com.
All three of us here in the studio, Bradford, Dan, and Randy, all went to Lindenwood, and you can get a great education at Lindenwood without breaking the bank. Lindenwood is one of the most affordable private colleges in St. Louis, and you won't have to sacrifice quality for incredible value. You can apply today or schedule a visit at lindenwood.edu, and Lindenwood is so much different than when we were there because now they're Division I, and they have an exciting Division I campus experience with football in the fall and then men's and women's basketball, and they are competitive teams that are playing to win. Lindenwood has over 50 student clubs and organizations, and for the people that are really there for a great education, over 100 degrees and minors and certificates are available. Small class sizes, which I really appreciated when I was at Lindenwood, a 15-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio, and over $12,500 in financial awards per traditional UG student. The campus is made up of students from all 50 states and over 75 countries. You or your youngster that's looking at schools will love Lindenwood University. Learn more at lindenwood.edu.
Blues game right here. WXOS HD1 East St. Louis 101 ESPN. Drive, the Balloon Party, BK and Ferrario, to the Fast Lane and more. If you missed anything on 101 ESPN today, get caught up with all the shows and 101 podcasts at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app.
Driven by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
Live from the Car Shield studio, this is the Opening Drive on 101 ESPN. A fresh perspective on today's top stories. This is Fresh Take.
Presented by Lindenwood University. Real experience, real success.
It is 8:05 in St. Louis. Time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Back on February 1st of 2021, the Cardinals traded 5 young players to Colorado for Nolan Arenado, who has had several good years for the Cardinals. The last year and a third, not so great, relatively speaking. I mean, most teams would love to have Nolan Arenado's numbers, but he hasn't been typical Nolan here for a while. But when you look at what the Cardinals gave up, and granted, Arenado forced his way to St. Louis. There are no two ways about that. But Mateo Gil was part of that deal. He's now in the Mets system. Tony Losi was in that deal. He is now in the Rays system. Jake Summers was in that deal. He's still with the Rockies. He's at Double-A, but the right-handed pitcher has an 11.74 earned run average in Double-A this year. And then Austin Gomber, who's going to pitch tonight, and he's in the top 15 in the National League in earned run average. And Elehuris Montero, who was a top 30 Cardinal prospect, hasn't lived up to the numbers I think that Colorado probably expected. But when you look at what the Cardinals gave up, essentially, it's nothing for Nolan Arenado.
What they gave up is money.
Yeah.
You know, and
well, Colorado gave the money here.
I mean,
but to him, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. Now, the back end of this deal may not look pretty. I think it's still a steal, Randy. I mean, you're getting Nolan Arenado. You're getting one of the best defensive third basemen that ever played this game. And still, even though I know he's -8 in defensive runs saved, he's awfully solid when a ball is hit his way. I'll take my chances with Nolan Arenado. And I think before it's all said and done, and I could be wrong about this, but I bet he winds up being a Cardinal Hall of Famer if he finishes the term of that contract here in St. Louis. So if you're talking about the players that they gave up and what you got back, I think it's a steal. They gave up a lot of money, and I know that the Rockies were paying some of the contract, and it's going to wind up being a lot of money from the Cardinals to Nolan Arenado. But I still, as I reflect on it, I mean, I think it's a steal. And if you would have said at the time, this is what you're going to give up, and then to know what the production would be of these minor league players you talked about, it's even more of a steal.
And the Cardinals were in the playoffs a couple of years with Arenado being a middle-of-the-lineup hitter. He just turned 33, so we talk about age, and, yeah, he's got a lot of miles on the body, but I ask myself, do I feel like I can win with Nolan Arenado as my third baseman? I still feel like I can. Now, can I win with Austin Gomber in my rotation? Probably, but I don't know if I can win with Montero as a regular in my lineup. I don't. Jake Summers is 11.74 so far this year at Double-A. And then Losi and Gill, I don't feel, well, the Rockies didn't even feel like, and that's not probably a good gauge of what quality of a player is, but they didn't feel like those guys could help them. And those are guys that are both in A ball still that the Cardinals gave up for Arenado.
So if you would have said Nolan Arenado for Austin Gomber, you'd have thought you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
Out of your mind.
And I get $51 million.
$51 million coming back to help pay off the contract. Yeah. That's the other part, is that they threw in money. It does make me wonder, why were the Rockies so willing to throw in the money and give up on Nolan Arenado? He must have, as you said, really wanted out of there to force his way. I mean, players have a chance, to an extent, to force their ways out of situations. And it looked like he was miserable after he signed the deal. He must have been just miserable and said, get me out of here. Get me out of here.
They had made a promise when they signed him to the deal. I believe it was 8 years and $240 million. And he said, are you going to build a competitive team when you sign me to this contract? And they said yes, but then they quit spending and they didn't develop and they were terrible. And so basically they broke their promise to him to be a competitive organization, and he went public with that in addition to privately telling them, and he had the no trade. So, and there was only one place, and Matt Holliday talked him into it, there was only one place for him to go that he really wanted to go to, and that was St. Louis.
Could you imagine being a Rockies fan and you grew up watching, let's say, Nolan Arenado and making these plays in the prime of his career defensively, and they trade him away, and then you sign Chris Bryant.
Yeah.
Chris Bryant cannot stay on the field for the Rockies. That's going to go down, if he doesn't start playing a little bit, that's going to go down as one of the worst deals in baseball history.
Yeah, and I don't think he is. And that's another Scott Boras guy. And Boras took him down the line. They turned down a big offer from the Cubs. I wonder how much better off he and the Cubs would have been had he just signed the contract there.
It was interesting how the Cubs did that, isn't it? You know, you had Bryant, you had Baez, you had Rizzo. You thought that one of the three, because of they're part of a world championship in 2016 for the Cubs. You thought one of the three would stay in Chicago. I still find that shocking that one of those guys is now wearing a Cubs uniform.
With Bryant in particular, though, with Scott Boras as his agent, once he wasn't up for those first 2 weeks of his rookie season in 2015, I think he was gone. I think the day he made his major league debut with the Cubs, he was gone 6 years later.
This is from the 314. I guess it's to my point. Arenado, a Cardinals Hall of Famer, have the Red Jacket standards fallen that far? No way he doesn't get a Red Jacket for what he did in Colorado. And I'm not talking about what he did in Colorado. I'm talking about what he may do in the remainder of his deal. And there may be a slight drop-off, but to me, Matt Carpenter is a surefire Cardinal Hall of Famer. I think Goldschmidt will be that way. And I think before it's all said and done, with the longevity and the fact that he did make it to postseason play a couple of times, some Gold Gloves here in St. Louis, I think Nolan Arenado will be there. Now, you can make the point that some of the standards, if you want to call it that, have dropped because the standards when they started this thing were all Major League Baseball Hall of Famers. They were the best of the best you had in St. Louis, but this is a club Hall of Fame. Not every team has Hall of Famers rolling out every single year. You will have Waino going in. You're going to have Molina going in. You're going to have Pujols going in. But you're going to be mixed in with the Jose Oquendos and those that mean a lot to the organization. Dave Duncan, Matty Moe. I mean, people say, well, Matty Moe was dominant for a good portion of his career. John Tudor was dominant for a good portion of his career, albeit wasn't long, but it meant something to this organization. And I think that's the same way that you have to look at Arenado, Goldie, and some of the others.
If Arenado plays out the contract, he'll have 7 years under his belt. So far, in 3.5 years, 96 homers, 329 RBIs, and 808 OPS. He has won, as you mentioned, Dan, a couple of Gold Gloves. He's finished third in the MVP voting. And even in his worst year as a Cardinal, his third year last year, 26 homers, 93 RBIs. So I think the expectation, obviously, is that he's going to hit 34 and drive in 105 every year like he did in his first year here. Probably not going to happen every year, but I think when we get to the end of the contract and you look at the cumulative numbers over 7 years, I'm with you. I think Arenado probably winds up as a guy that Cardinal fans would like to vote in as a Cardinal Hall of Famer.
618 says, Matt Carpenter, no way. Come on. We going to make everyone a Hall of Famer? Let's have some credibility. Go back and look at Matt Carpenter's Cardinal career and exclude this year. Don't look at the back end of the deal that he had, because I think we have recency bias with this, Randy.
Yeah,
I think we look back and say, well, the end of that contract first time through wasn't pretty. And you're right. But if you look at when he was in the prime of his career, set the all-time doubles record in Cardinals history with 55. I mean, there's some things that, and he's shifted around the infield, played the outfield. By the way, you may not realize this, he was part of the 2011 World Championship team, albeit a handful of at-bats, but if you make it up, you're part of the championship team. You're part of that team that made it to the World Series. So he does have the championship under his belt, albeit small, but it's part of the resume that you put together for a player.
And fourth in the MVP voting for a National League championship team, right? That went to the World Series against Boston. And for the first half dozen or so years of his full-time career, he was one of the 5 or 6 best leadoff hitters since baseball expanded in 1960.
Yeah.
He was right there with Rickey Henderson and some of the great leadoff hitters in statistically in terms of getting on base and scoring runs. He was right there at the top of that list. An all-star in 13, 14, and 16, 12th in the MVP voting in 2015, 9th in the MVP. This is for the whole league in 2018. I think if you look at the as you say, the preponderance of the career and just don't look at the back end, I think it's actually pretty easy.
Yeah, I do too. And he's not the prototypical leadoff man, but this is what you get with leadoff men now in baseball. It's different. Ricky Henderson ain't walking through that door, neither is Lou Brock. So you're going to get a different way to get on base. Walks, the fact that he did that, and he hit for power. He hit gap to gap. And I think those are things that you have to consider moving forward when you evaluate Matt Carpenter and his chances for the Cardinals Hall of Fame.
That's today's Fresh Take on 101 ESPN. Coming up, Joey V talking some hockey and other stuff here on the opening drive with Dan and Randy on 101 ESPN.
It's time for a DraftKings at Casino Queen Redbird report on 101 ESPN.
Gray gets frank about his performance. I'm Bradford Bruns with your Redbird report. Home cooking was not the tonic for Cardinals ace Sonny Gray last night. Number 54 and St. Louis came up short versus Colorado 3-2 at Busch Stadium. After the series opener, Gray expressed frustration with continued control issues. He went just 4+ innings, walking 4 offensively. STL stranded 10 runners. Leadoff man Mason Wynn did wrap a pair of hits. Nolan Arenado drew 3 free passes, but Rockies starter Cal Quantrill authored 5 scoreless frames. Tonight, Lance Lynn opposes old friend Austin Gomber. First pitch downtown, 7:15.
The Redbird Report is presented by DraftKings at Casino Queen. Play, stay, dine at DraftKings at Casino Queen.
Hit it out of the park this baseball season at DraftKings at Casino Queen. Book DraftKings at Casino Queen's Stay and Play Cardinals Hotel Package. This Grand Slam bundle includes 1-night hotel stay, 10% off casino dining, 2 St. Louis Cardinals tickets, and free shuttle service to the game starting at just $149. Call 618-874-5000 to book today. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Based on availability, restrictions apply.
This is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Sumner One. Joey Vitale views things a little differently. Just imagine how he looks at hockey. Whoa! This is The View from Vitale. Brought to you by Scott Lee Heating Company, a proud Mitsubishi Electric Elite contractor.
Danny Mac, Randy Karraker, and we go to the celebrity line right now. And the guy that we don't talk to enough during the summer is Joe Vitale. And the Stanley Cup Finals start tomorrow night. So I thought a logical time to talk to Joe Vitale about whether or not he's been to Disney yet this summer. He's with us as he is Fridays during the season. Joey V, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, Randy, Danny Mac. It's been too long. I'm really glad you asked me to come on. I miss talking to you guys. I miss talking sports, and just miss you as people. So it's great to catch up.
Well, we miss you as well, and we'll get to the hockey in a moment. And by the way, I know you'll hate talking about it. We're going to get to a little Chaminade as well. But have you been to Disney yet this summer?
So we pushed Disney back to the fall. We're going to go in the fall. We usually are going at least twice a year, but we decided this year that my daughter, she's doing the volleyball thing, and they have nationals in Dallas, so we're going to be doing that to the front end of the summer. And then, of course, Disney's coming later. So I'm getting my Mickey sweatshirts. I'm getting my Mickey ears. I'm getting it all ready to go, Randy. I'll be dialed in by September. Don't you worry about that.
Proud of you. Looking forward to that.
What is a summer like in the Vitale household with all those kids?
It's like a jigsaw puzzle, Dan. It's just chaos constantly. I don't even want to show people my calendar of what I got to get done in a day. And it's just like meaningless pickups and drop-off tasks. Nowadays, I mean, the world's changed so much, and parents will tell you, now summers are kind of built around camps. You know, the world's changed so much where, you know, when we were all kids, guys, you know, we lived in these neighborhoods and these cul-de-sacs where your summers were just, you wake up, you go outside, you play with your neighbors, roller hockey, wiffle ball, go to the pool, you come home, and you're home before dark, and you go to bed, and that was your summer. But with everything being a little bit more confined, and parents and kids not getting out as much because of different reasons, and people are living in areas where it's harder to get out. Now it's you got to find camps and you got to reach out for these places. So ton of drop-offs, ton of pickups. But we got a pool in our backyard, so the kids have been doing the pool thing and just trying to enjoy the moments and of just being with them and all the little tasks of the day. But it's been a lot of fun. Definitely pulling some weight for what I lacked during the season, as my wife has to do it all for about 6 to 7 months.
Hey, Joey V, I was thinking about you when the Northern Lights were showing here in the Midwest. Did you go out and see the Northern Lights? And what can you tell us that we might not know about the Northern Lights?
The only thing I know about the Northern Lights is that Elsa from Frozen was a huge fan of the Northern Lights. So my daughters, they were. That's all I really know about the Northern Lights.
So I need to let it go?
Yeah, you probably do exactly. I like what you did there. My daughter Summer and of course my daughter Birdie, they were singing all the songs and even my son Bodie. So I don't know if I told you guys this, but Bodie was he's 8 now. As parents. Each kid, I feel like they go through these phases of like Toy Story, or they love, Superman, and you feel like these phases last forever. And then you think, okay, we got to move on from this phase. Like, you can't be dressing like Batman all the time. And then eventually it's over, and you're like, oh man, I missed that phase. You look back on photos, and my son Bodie, for whatever reason, he was obsessed with Elsa when he was like 3. And why wouldn't you? She's awesome. She like freezes things and she sings and she lives in a mountain. I totally get it. But from 3 to about 6.5, he literally lived in an Elsa dress. I mean, we would go to Halloween at school, and all his buddies were like firefighters and pirates, and he's got his Elsa dress. And this kid was so proud, and he was so confident, and that's what I love about him. So, the Northern Lights came out, and we were playing the Frozen, musical, and you can kind of see him. He was kind of whispering under his breath the song. He wanted to belt it out, but he didn't. I'm like, Bodie, let it out. He's like, no, Dad, I'm not really into it anymore. I'm like, oh, man, we missed that. So that's about as my knowledge of the Northern Lights, other than they were, in fact, just very, very beautiful. And I know it was a fun time for the people in the Midwest to see it.
Can you think of a situation in St. Louis at the same time where you had kids going to high school like Kachuk and Tatum, and then turn out to be not only just professional athletes, but guys that are two of the best in their respective leagues? Can you think of a situation, or have you thought about that at all?
It's incredible. It's incredible, Danny. I mean, you got to give a lot of credit to Chaminade, too. I mean, I remember my freshman year when I was at CBC, I was at Queenie Park. We had just beat Webster for the semifinal. We were going down at the time, it was the Savas Center, for the state championship in 2 weeks. And we were watching a semifinal game, and we didn't know it at the time. But this was a Chaminade team of, Paul Stastny, Jan Stastny, Ben Bishop. The Weidmans came shortly after that, Keith Van Gels. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, another one, Chris Butler. Chris Butler was a defenseman who played, of course, a long time in the National Hockey League. It was incredible, all the future NHL players that were on this team that you didn't even know about. And I'll never forget Vianney scoring in the minigame to send Chaminade away. So thank God we didn't have to play the Chaminade team in the State Cup. But that was just another small glimpse of the amount of talent that Chaminade has produced. But you're right. Matthew Tkachuk, Jason Tatum there, all obviously in their respective championships now. It's incredible. And, I don't know much about Tatum, but I can tell you enough about, Matthew. I know enough about him through Walt and, of course, his brother. I'll never forget, I trained here in St. Louis, with John Benny. His nickname is Crash, out of Pear. And I was, of course, working out and with Chris Butler and some of the old-timers, and Matthew and Brady would come in. They were 10, 11 years old, and, they were starting at a very young age, but they loved the sport of hockey. They were constantly watching the sport of hockey and playing the sport of hockey. And you look at the IQ of a player like Tatum. You look at the IQ of a player like Matthew Tkachuk, and this is an art of youth sports that I think is really starting to get lost. I think people need to really grab it again. It's watch the game. Watch the whole game. If you're a kid and you love hockey, watch a full period. The way everything is nowadays, it's all highlights and it's all clips and it's all short 20, 30-second spurts of just magic. And I think what kids are starting to do is they're starting to think that's the game. And I think the IQ of players is starting to really drop off. But not for a player like Matthew Tkachuk. That's what makes him so special, is his IQ is so high, but it really goes back to his childhood where he would just watch the game. And that's really the best way to increase the intelligence of a player. And you're super proud of players like this who come from St. Louis and can do the things that they're doing right now. I mean, there's nothing easy about Matthew Tkachuk's game. You watch how physical he plays, takes away time and space, but he still scores. It's an incredible player. I mean, he's going to be a future Hall of Famer one day, and all the best to him. And I think Florida's going to pull this out because at the end of the day, they're just a better team. So you're hoping that Tkachuk, another reunion of the Stanley Cup, comes through St. Louis again this summer.
It is pretty cool to see Connor McDavid finally get to the finals.
It is. And I, disrespect to Connor McDavid, their top three are going. The Bouchard, the Draisaitl, Connor McDavid. I mean, you want to see those players get there. They've had a lot of help. Nugent Hopkins, they've had some secondary scoring from Zach Hyman. That's what's kind of got him over this hump. But, he's an electric player, and, he deserves to get to the final. He deserves a cup before he retires. And as crazy as it sounds, guys, he's coming up to 30 here pretty soon. And, time actually is of the essence, I would say, for Connor McDavid. This is something he needs to take full advantage of. But I just feel like the big roadblock for the Edmonton Oilers right now is a team with better goaltending, more physical, more depth, and a very disciplined team where they're not going to find themselves on as many power plays. And as much as you'd love to see a star player like Connor McDavid win a Stanley Cup, I feel like the Florida Panthers are just built too tough, not to mention way healthier than they were last year at the final. So it's going to be a great final. I don't even think it's going to go 7. I think Florida's just that much better. I think it's going to be done in 6. But it's going to be a fun final, no doubt.
I'm curious if you're a casual hockey fan, and maybe you just tune in for the NHL finals and the Stanley Cup finals here, Joey. And you hear you're a fan of sports, so maybe you listen to ESPN and you're always listening to the sports radio stuff, and guys are talking about, and gals are always talking about Matthew Tkachuk and what makes him a great player. How would you explain that to a casual fan? If I'm watching, what should I be watching that makes him such a great player?
Well, the thing about Matthew Tkachuk that separates him is, he makes players, or he brings up the game of players around him constantly. That's what really separates him. That was the difference for me when I played with Sidney Crosby. And you look at, a younger Connor McDavid, as electrifying as some players are, you look at a Barzal, right, for example. You look at some of these just flashy players, but it's all within themselves, right? But Crosby had a way of bringing out the best in the players around him and creating space for the players around him. That to me is what's different. And part of that is that overall just competitiveness. I was talking to Darren Pang about this, and this is something that Matthew Tkachuk just completely embodies, Dan. And I would say for a young kid, next game you watch Matthew Tkachuk, and watch when that puck goes in the corner. Steve Yzerman built the Tampa Bay Lightning, the team that made multiple trips to the Stanley Cup Finals and won multiple championships. Even though he departed to go to Detroit, those were his personnel. Those were his players. What did Steve Yzerman really look for in a player when he built the dynasty of the Tampa Bay Lightning? Darren Pang, who's great friends with Steve Yzerman, told me it's pretty simple. He looks for a player when you put a puck in the corner and it's a 50-50 battle. Who's coming out with that puck? It's the desire, right? It's the passion and it's the attitude that is my puck, and I am going to do whatever it takes in a competitive nature within the rules to take that puck from you and exit the corner with it. To me, Dan, that's the difference of a Matthew Tkachuk. He's not as fast as Connor McDavid. He doesn't have the hands. He doesn't have the shot. Quite frankly, he doesn't have any skill set outside of that just competitive spirit of coming out of the corner with the puck to outduel a Connor McDavid. But I'm telling you, even though we're in a world where everything is these, Michigan goals behind the net and all these skill things and all these Instagram handles with all the skill sets you need and the flips and the twirls and the turns and everything was like a circus these days, the game is the game. And the meat and potatoes of the game will never change. It's the competitive nature of you put a puck in a corner, it's one-on-one. Who has the desire to come out of the puck more times than not? And for me right now, there's no better player in the league than Matthew Tkachuk that can do that.
Joey V, we're going to be together on Wednesday night for We Win Blues Day, the trivia night over at Enterprise Center. I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, that's like putting on an AB up-down cheat code for whatever team you're on there, Randy. I mean, might as well just give you guys a trophy if you're going to be a part of the trivia night.
I'm just going to be hanging out with you. I think we're going to interview people together.
Oh, perfect. Well, then, yeah, as long as you can't play, we're fine. As long as you're helping me interview people, we're good to go. There's absolutely no way you're allowed to play trivia at the table. That's just basically give them the trophy. But no, let's do it. Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be a fun night for all fans out there. If anyone who doesn't know about it, like Randy said, next Wednesday, it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of stories that have been vaulted, I think, a lot from alumni and players and personnel that we're going to tell some fun stories, relive the memories, relive the magic. And like I said, tables of 10, drinks, food. You're going to hear Randy, you're going to hear myself. It's going to be a heck of a time, a lot of fun. So if you've got nothing going on next Wednesday, please get down there, stlouisblues.com, get yourself a table. It'll be a gas.
And it was a beautiful morning. Did you get out for a run this morning, Joe?
No, we're switching it to the HIIT workouts. My buddy, he actually bought this little small gym, so we're not running as much. We're doing all these what's called HIIT workouts. Apparently, if you lift weights and your heart rate goes up, I'm still learning a lot about it, but apparently it's better for you than running. I got to be careful about my joints. I'm getting old, like you guys.
Oh,
thanks a lot.
Yeah, well, I am. I accept that that label. I am there. So yeah, it's HIIT, right? Something intensity, whatever.
Yeah, it's like high intensity interval training or some I don't know. Someone's making a lot of money off it somewhere out there in the social media world.
All right. Hey, it's great to have you on, Joey. Thanks so much for the time. We will see you on Wednesday, and we'll talk as the summer unfolds.
Hey, can't wait, guys. Anytime you want to chit-chat, I'm happy to get out of the house and catch my breath, and I got to head back into the mayhem. All right, talk to you later.
Good luck. See you later. Joe Vitale with us on 101 ESPN. Coming up, we've got a fight for you. I think Bummer is back for day 2 of the fight here on the opening drive on 101 ESPN.
It's a bummer, dude. In celebration of We Went Blues Day this Wednesday, June 12th, 101 ESPN is giving away a bunch of signed blues items, autographed by some of the current and former blues players who meant so much to the 2019 Stanley Cup Championship team. You can enter to win a signed Ryan O'Reilly jersey, a signed Braden Shen puck, a signed Jordan Binnington mini goalie helmet, and more. Check out all those awesome blues giveaways in celebration of We Went Blues Day going on right now, either at 101ESPN.com or your 101 mobile app.
Thank you. And as your valedictorian, I must admit, I cheated. Oh, not at school. It was at Frank Lita Mitsubishi in the automotive outlet. I got thousands off with only $29 down. It felt like cheating.
Everyone gets a great deal at Frank Lita because every vehicle is $29 down, $29. And you don't have to be a valedictorian. You just need $29 down at Frank Lita Mitsubishi.
How'd you get a lifetime warranty? No charge.
Plus, any trades accepted, any condition, paid for or not.
Acres of new, acres of pre-owned. And every vehicle is $29 down.
$29! At Missouri's #1 new Mitsubishi dealer,
Frank Lita Mitsubishi.
In the automotive outlet in Bridgeton.
YesLita.com.
YesLita.com. New 24 Outlander, $39,129 down, $720 a month for 72 months at 10% APR. Plus tax, tag title to qualified buyers.
One of the hardest things about business is getting customers, but it's not just getting customers, it's keeping customers. What if there was a place, though, where connections aren't just made, but they're nurtured for growth? Enter 2060 Digital. It's a sister company right here at 101 ESPN. They're backed by Hubbard, a 100-year-old media empire. And just like 101 ESPN, if you're a business owner or marketer seeking more strategic ways to reach your audience, well, there's no better way to do it than with 2060 Digital. They can help you with social media. They know when and what to post on social media to be most effective with your use. They also do a great job of building a website so that it can be most effective for you. They can work with algorithms to make sure that when your company is searched, you wind up at the top of the search page. They are a difference maker. And at 2060 Digital, they specialize in simplifying what is complex about digital marketing. They're going to be perfect for you, and they have a great analytics crew that can actually show you the numbers of how effective they are. It's 2060 Digital. Learn more at 101ESPN.com/2060 Digital.
Mortgage rates have finally dropped. That's right. Golden Oak has 5.375% fixed rates available right now. Our average cash out customer saves over $1,000.
You can now watch 101 ESPN live on our Air Alliance Team Studio Cams. Catch every show live on our YouTube channel or at 101ESPN.com. 101 ESPN Studio Cams.
Presented by the Air Alliance Team Heating and Cooling. Getting the job done quickly, correctly, 100% of the time.
Live from the Car Shield Studio, this is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Welcome to the fight. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Karraker.
Time for the fight on 101 ESPN. Danny Mac and Bradford here in studio. Randy has stepped out. It's 8:38 here in St. Louis. Returning fighter is our friend Bummer. Bummer, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We're doing well. So you've had 24 hours now to take in this first round fight in which you won. Is it life-changing? What was it like for you the last 24 hours?
Well, as you know, I beat in a golf match. I beat Randy, and I guess all I got to do is beat Brooke in tennis, and I got the trifecta.
Wow. Talking a lot of trash this morning, Bummer, on a Friday morning. I like it.
Yes.
Well, here we go. Bradford has question number 1.
Bummer, if you were tuned in last hour, you knew that Chris Garrett of the BattleHawks was on the opening drive. But before starring for the BattleHawks, A.J. McCarron was a 2-time national championship winning quarterback at Alabama. Mind you, 2 times as the starter, a national champion. In the 2012 BCS title game, McCarron and the Crimson Tide knocked off which school by the score of 42-14?
Options?
They are Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oregon.
Ohio State.
Final answer, Bummer?
Final answer.
All right. Where did the prospective next coach of the Lakers, Danny Hurley, play his college basketball? Was it Duke, Seton Hall, or Villanova?
Seton Hall.
Final answer, sir?
Final answer.
On to question 3.
Dan, you know I've done the gauntlet too many times. The 1985 Cardinals, Bummer. The 1985 Redbird stole a magnificent 314 bases as a team in 410 attempts. However, only 2 players topped 50 stolen bases. Vince Coleman and who else?
What are my options?
They are Ozzie Smith, Tommy Herr, or Willie McGee.
Willie McGee.
And question 4. Tomorrow night on 101 ESPN, the Oilers return to the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time since 2006. Name that team's head coach. Was it Glenn Sather, Craig McTavish, or Larry Robinson?
It was, oh my God, I know this. It was Glenn Sather.
All right, sir. Final answer, Glenn Sather?
Yes.
All right, we'll go get Randy.
I'll definitely see myself out.
We forgot a couple of times, Bummer, to give you the options, but eventually we jumped on that. Hey, Bummer, you're also a girls' golf head coach, are you not, in high school?
Correct. Over at Incarnate Word. I've been there 12 years.
That's awesome.
And we finished second this year in state, fourth last year.
Well, congratulations. That's great.
And we're going to beat Visitation this year somehow.
Well, let's say good morning again to Randy Karraker.
Good morning, Bummer. How you doing?
I'm doing good, buddy. How are you?
Outstanding. Thank you. Great to have you back with us today.
All right.
RK, you ready to go? Fueled up?
Ready
On a
rock and
Friday.
roll.
Let's do it. Before starring for the BattleHawks, A.J. McCarron. He was a 2-time national championship winning QB at Alabama, 2 times as a starter. In the 2012 BCS title game, McCarron's Crimson Tide blitzed which school by the score of 42-14?
42-14 in 2012. Would that have been, let's see, that would have been, they actually beat Missouri a couple years later. I think I know this one, but I'm not positive, so I'm going to do the old lifeline here, big boy.
Okay, would that have been the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, Ohio State, or Oregon?
Okay, I was thinking Oregon, but Oregon also got hammered by Auburn in a championship game. McCarron, I think Oregon only had, well, they had that one with the guy that replaced Kelly. I don't think it was Ohio State. I think Ohio State won right at the beginning. And this is 2012 for McCarron. And then one of the years he beat Florida State. And then the other one was Notre Dame. And I don't think Notre Dame ever made it. Oh, maybe they did. I'll go Notre Dame.
Final answer?
Yeah, sure.
Where did prospective next coach of the Lakers, Danny Hurley, play his college basketball?
His brother played at Duke. I know that.
He was pretty good.
He was really good.
Bobby was pretty good.
Yeah. Danny, I'm going to... I'll say that he was a Rhode Island Ram.
Question number 3, RK. The 1985 Cardinals stole 314 bases as a team in 410 attempts. However, only 2 players topped 50 swipes. Vince Coleman and who else?
I believe Willie McGee would have been the other. He won the MVP that year, and I think he had 56.
You didn't have to throw in the 56.
Well,
but you got that.
Okay.
Both you and Bummer got that right, so I can just move on. Okay. All right. Tomorrow night on 101 ESPN, the Oilers return to the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time since 2006. Name that team's head coach.
2006 Oilers. We were post John Muckler and Glenn Sather at that point.
Wow.
So this, who did Prongs play for? Oh, you know what? Was it pre-McClellan? Yeah, I think it was pre-McClellan, too. This is kind of a dead period in their history. I'll go with, I don't even know. I'll go with Craig McTavish.
Boy, we've got a bona fide dandy on this Friday. Yes, we do. Impressive stuff. Bummer coming back, trying to take 2 in a row from Randy Karraker heading into the weekend, who ultimately was able to prevail on this day. Only one can do so in the end. So you know what to do. Ring that bell.
The winner and still champion of the fight, Randy Karraker.
The fight is presented by Golf Discount of St. Louis. With the most experienced club fitters in town. Why shop anywhere else?
RK, awesome job. Same to you, though, Bummer. We had a tight one. The final 3-2 in favor of Randy this morning. So let's go through the answers. Question number 1, A.J. McCarron in action again Sunday in the UFL Conference Championship game. Way back in the day, he was a star at Alabama. Let's go to the 2012 BCS title game. It was the Crimson Tide taking down the Fighting Irish by that final of 42-14. Randy, to your point, Oregon that year was number 2 for a good portion of the season and actually beat Kansas State in the Fiesta Bowl.
Didn't it? That was the game that Brent Musburger just completely focused on. Yeah. All right. That's how I remember it. Okay, go ahead.
To the hoops. Danny Hurley could very well be the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, but where, pray tell, did he play his college hoops?
Pray tell.
Yes. Not at Duke. Not at Villanova. Not for Providence or Rhode Island, but rather Seton Hall, which Bomber was able to get, yes, with no hesitation whatsoever. To baseball, 1985, those running Redbirds, 314 stolen bases as a team. You know that Vince Coleman exceeded the century mark. Willie McGee, Randy on point as per usual, 56 steals. Bummer got that one as well. You had Tommy Hurd, you had Ozzie Smith, and Andy Van Slyke too, getting over 30 as those Redbirds were running like crazy. And finally, tomorrow night here on 101 ESPN, we have the pregame at 7. The Edmonton Oilers, they're back in the Stanley Cup final stage for the first time since 2006. That squad's head coach, none other than the mascot, tongue-grabbing Craig McTavish himself.
That's why I remembered it.
Is that right?
Because he ripped the tongue out of the Calgary mascot's mouth.
Yeah, he did.
That's right. Yeah. I forgot about that.
Bummer, great job this morning. Appreciate your listening, and we'll speak again soon.
Hey, guys, let me give a shout-out to one of my students who finally shot under par yesterday in a tournament, Josh Hooper, who is 8 years old, and he's heading up to the Midwest Championship up in Kansas City, so hopefully he can keep it rolling.
I want to be one of your students.
8 years old? Under par. 8 years old, Bummer?
Hey, here's the thing. We got a good staff. We got Ray Farnell, who caddied for 18 years on tour, and we just added 2 ladies, Addie Zeller and McKenna Montgomery. If anybody's kids want lessons, send them out to Whitmore.
All right. Bummer, you're the best. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Oh, and you don't have a tea time next Wednesday, by the way.
All right. We'll see you later.
Sorry.
No problem. Bummer with us, and Bummer and Whitmore do such an amazing job with the Folds of Honor Golf Tournament coming up on the 24th of this month, and we're going to have the show over there on the 24th, and we're looking forward to that. But that's another great spot. If you're looking to have a charity golf tournament, no better place, tied for first at the very least, Whitmore Country Club. Coming up, We mentioned the Alabama-Notre Dame championship game. Well, college football is going to go head-to-head against late-season NFL with their college football playoff. What's that going to look like? That's next on 101 ESPN.
The Stanley Cup Final is on ESPN. Tomorrow, Panthers and Oilers Game 1. Pre-game at 6:30, puck drop at 7. The NHL plays on 101 ESPN.
Daddy, the potty's overflowing again.
Plumbing issues? Call the Chesterfield Service Unclog Squad for any of your sink, drain, or mainline service needs. Chesterfield Service is your premium home service team and has been serving the St. Louis area since 1976. Give them a call today at 636-200-3489 or visit their website at chesterfieldservice.com.
Daddy, it's everywhere.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
Quantrill quiets Cardinals. I'm Bradford Bruns, and this Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. National League worst Colorado pulled into St. Louis last night and promptly delivered the home club a 3-2 defeat. Cal Quantrill allowed just 3 hits across 5 innings. Mason Wynn recorded 2 of those, but Ali Marmol's group still slipped to 29 and 32. At 7:15 this evening, Lance Lynn toes the rubber. Austin Gomber goes for Bud Black. Hoops, Boston sees its Game 1 from Dallas 107-89. NBA Finals action continues Sunday on 101 ESPN. Tomorrow, though, it's Florida-Edmonton Stanley Cup-style puck drop happens shortly after 7 p.m. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
This is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Sumner One.
The college football 12-team playoff begins in 2024, and the 4 first-round college football playoff games will be played December 20th and 21st. ABC and ESPN will televise the games on Friday and Saturday night. TNT will have the December 21st afternoon games at noon and 4. And, Dan, the afternoon games are going to go up against a pair of NFL games with Houston, Kansas City at 1 o'clock and Baltimore, Pittsburgh at 4:30. So on a Saturday in the winter on December 20th, right before Christmas, December 21st, we're going to have, for the first time in my memory, college football, big-time college football, not like FCS stuff. We're going to have big-time college football going against the National Football League. This isn't Thursday night Maction against Thursday night on Amazon.
Yeah, so this is a situation where the games matter, and not to say that the other games don't matter for some that follow the fan bases of those particular colleges and universities, but the games matter. It's going to be fascinating to me because the NFL was up 7% in their games last year, about 17.9 million viewers. That's a lot, but up 7%. The New Year's Day average in college games was 13.5 million. But those games, while it's fun to watch, there wasn't the intrigue of the college football playoff. Right. And so now I think it changes the landscape a little bit.
You've got win or go home, and you're bound to have brand names in the college football playoff. You're going to have the top 12 teams, and most of those, actually, of the brand names, Mizzou's kind of a newcomer to the mix, but you're going to have the top 4 teams in the country that get buys that opening weekend.
Right.
But then after that, for example, if it were last weekend, you would have a Florida State in there. You would have a Georgia in there. It would be, you're going to have really good teams and really good matchups in that first weekend.
And I always think it's got to be compelling. If you look at some of the college football playoff games, not the playoff games, just the bowl games, so many of those players would sit out. So you weren't seeing a true representation of what they had done in the regular season. That was a problem to me. But when you have something on the line, win or you go home, that's different. Because where would the NFL season be at that point, too?
It's the second to last weekend. So third to last weekend, I guess.
It's not necessarily win or go home. And these are sudden death, if you will.
What would make the 2 games compelling for the NFL on that Saturday is health. And let me dumb it down here. Let me go ESPN first take style or Greeny style, okay? You've got C.J. Stroud against Patrick Mahomes, because that's the way they look at it, right? And you've got Lamar Jackson against either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. So the quarterback matchups have a chance to be very intriguing on that Saturday. So if we dumb it down, we're going to be watching both TVs. Now, if C.J. Stroud is hurt, then all of a sudden that game between KC and Houston isn't as compelling.
I think majority of football fans are flipping back and forth.
Yeah.
I do, but I bet the college game, I'm not saying it would outrate the pro game, because I don't know if there's a connection to these college teams that some people may have, like the affinity that I have for Missouri, to see them do well. The ratings in St. Louis would be astronomical for that Mizzou game.
Right.
Kansas City would be huge. But generally speaking, across the country, I'm not sure there'd be that tie-in to college football that we see. Now, betting changes that, and one and done changes that, but still, I don't see them going above the NFL.
And Dan, speaking to the compelling quotient in this mix, especially especially as regards the college football playoff. I do think having those initial first-round games at home at the sites of the higher seeds when you're talking about 5 and 6, that will mean something. On the flip side, also, as you stated, you've got compelling NFL affairs. And make no mistake about it, Randy, when you're talking about Texans, Chiefs, and Pittsburgh, Baltimore, for the latter matchup, throw out the time of year at which the game is played, because that divisional matchup is going to be intense regardless. But you very well could have a Houston team and that division, if things don't break quite as well this year, maybe jockeying for playoff position, or even Kansas City. We cannot necessarily say that once again this coming season it's a runaway for KC in the West.
And what if it's the Chiefs against the Texans, and that game is Kansas or K-State against Texas A&M?
That's a good. You better have 2 TVs.
Yeah, exactly.
Where are you guys going? I would watch the college foot. I prefer college.
A playoff game. The playoff game for me takes precedence. But yeah, am I going to have my 2 TV setup going? I am.
Or flipping back and forth for sure.
Hopefully, I'll actually be in the house at Faroe Field. But if that's not the case,
you don't miss many Mizzou games, do you?
No.
MIZ.
It's going to be a campaign to cover. But yeah, give me the college side, and I will certainly be observing with great interest what's going on the NFL side as well. But you're talking about, yes, win or go home for all intents and purposes. The college matchups, the magnetic nature of them, to me, that is very exciting.
Coming up here on 101 ESPN, we're going to talk to the president of the Blues, Chris Zimmerman. We've got We Went Blues Night coming up, and some interesting business news for the Blues. That's next on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN has your chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to next Tuesday night's Budweiser Bash for Cardinals versus Pirates. It's the next Budweiser Bash game of the 2024 season and features a limited edition bobblehead giveaway featuring Cardinals Hall of Famer Jason Isringhausen. Keep listening to 101 for your chance to win a 4-pack of free tickets. And get all the details for this season's series of Budweiser Bash cards games now at cardinals.com/promotions.
Hey, wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind. Like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest. Uh-oh. Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
Hey, if you haven't scheduled your air conditioner tune-up with Hoffman Brothers yet, you need to. Give them a call at 314-664-3011 or go to hoffmanbros.com. You can also text that number, 314-664-3011. And you know how hot it gets in St. Louis. And if you don't feel comfortable with your air conditioner and its ability to survive long-term, Hoffman Brothers can help you out on many fronts. They can fix your air conditioner. They'll come out, clean it out, tell you exactly what's wrong with it, and make sure that it is good to go for the summer. Or if you do have an older one, 25 years, 20-year-old air conditioner, they can tell you what the lifespan of that air conditioner would be, and they can provide a great replacement because Hoffman Brothers is a proud Mitsubishi Electric elite contractor. They do fantastic work. The people that work for Hoffman Brothers are extraordinarily knowledgeable and friendly. We are members of their home protection plan and use Hoffman Brothers all the time. I can tell you, from firsthand experience, you'll love working with Hoffman Brothers. Again, get that air conditioner service, 314-664-3011. Call or text that, or go to hoffmanbros.com.
Live from the Car Shield studio, this is the opening drive on 101 ESPN.
Dan McLaughlin, Randy Karraker, the opening drive on 101 ESPN. It's 9:05. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. And there has been consternation with the Centene Community Ice Center for several years in regards to the finances of the facility. And this week it was revealed that Maryland Heights was going to terminate its agreement with the Legacy Ice Foundation and essentially manage the Centene Ice Center themselves. Joining us now is the president of the St. Louis Blues, Chris Zimmerman. It's always great to have him on the Celebrity Line. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good, Randy. How are you doing?
Everything's good. So Maryland Heights was supposed to have a vote last night. Where do we stand right now with the Blues Association with their practice facility?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, the Blues, we've got to have a 30-year lease with the facility, so very solid, and everything is proceeding as we've always done. We've got some exciting events that we'll be bringing soon, including the Prospect tournament, which we'll be hosting at Centene next fall. So there's zero change in the Blues' relationship with the facility and the city.
Okay, so what about if they would try to make a change? How would the Blues feel about that? What if the city of Maryland Heights decides, as was noted at STLtoday.com, that they wanted to terminate the agreement with the Legacy Ice Foundation?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let me explain. So Legacy was the 501c3. It continues to operate. That essentially was the key funding source for the building and development of the facility. Legacy completed the construction and then turned over the ownership of the facility to Maryland Heights. That was always the plan. Legacy continued, and I'm going to use a phrase, sort of as a middleman between the city and the operating company, which is the Oakview Group, and that relationship is the one that's been ended, and it's been ended in part because it just really wasn't necessary or efficient. So it gets a bit complicated. We've got multiple entities, but the Blues completely sound. The facility continued to be operated by the Oakview Group, which I think is one of the strongest operating groups and a really strong management team there. And, if you will, the simple story is the facility in terms of its events is strong, lots of things going well, hockey growing, just the challenge of some expense growth and some revenue shortfalls. Those are things that are still being if you will, managed and worked on.
All right. Good information there. Now let's move to We Went Blues Day next Wednesday. And, of course, 101 ESPN will be airing Game 7 of the Blues Stanley Cup Championship, Game 7 win over the Bruins. It's amazing that it's 5 years ago, isn't it?
It is amazing. In some ways, I'd say it's flown by. The other day, I saw some pictures, some promotional pictures of fans at some of the watch parties, at some of the post parties at the parades. It's quite, I don't know, for me, I find great joy in seeing the way our community all responded, and we all know how special that was. So, yes, hard to believe it's 5 years. Obviously, we're out working to get back there as soon as possible. But, yeah, next Wednesday will be a fun day where we're going to have a number of different events throughout the day, culminating with our first ever Blues Trivia Night at Enterprise Center on Wednesday night. We'll have a few members of that Cup-winning team will be there, alumni. Tom Stillman, our management team, will be there. We think it's going to be a great night, all benefiting the Blues for Kids Foundation.
Chris, what is the business side of the sport of hockey like during the summer months when there's no hockey at this point, but you guys never stop? What is the business side like?
In many ways, the sooner, as the unfortunate thing is that the sooner you're done, the more work you have to do, in part because you're working to obviously create momentum around the things you're doing on the team. This is the, quote, off-season, in many ways, is the most critical part for how we operate and continue to grow the business, all ultimately to reinvest in our team. And so whether it's our ticketing programs, booking events, whether it's working with new sponsors, all of those things, if you will, it's basically go time for us right now. So we find some time to get off and get away and recharge, but it really, I often say off season on the business side, it's really kind of a misnomer.
Chris, a lot of discussion, as you might guess, among people that are listening to a show like this about the Blues' future television setup and the Blackhawks announcing that they're going to leave NBC Sports Chicago and have their own hockey network. Obviously, that's something that the Blackhawks can do in a market like that. Is that something, A, that is viable in our market, and B, something the Blues have talked about?
I would say the world of regional sports television, that everything, quite honestly, there are multiple ways that we're looking at delivering our games in the event that, our current partnership with Bally's doesn't continue. It's well known that that entity is in bankruptcy. They've actually been operating the business now for well over a year from our seat pretty effectively because, a nuance of it is that the Bally Sports Midwest is not part of the actual bankruptcy filing. All more complicated than anybody really needs to know. The key thing is really about what will be the future distribution of our games. And I would tell you right now that the landscape is wide open, and I would say there are several different strategies and ways people may get the games delivered. The important thing for us ultimately is people seeing our games, feeling the energy of our sport is key to our business, to our brand, and our ultimate success. So we think some of the future distribution strategies could also mean that we'll reach a lot more people than we may be able to do today. So it's a big challenge, but it also could end up being a very exciting development for the delivery of our games.
All right, sounds good. Okay, to recap here, a 30-year lease, so no concerns about the Blues in the practice facility. The viability of the Centene Ice Center is fine. And on Wednesday night over at Enterprise Center, we've got a trivia night. Joe Vitale is going to be there. Tom Calhoun's going to ask the questions. I will join Joey up on stage, and tickets and tables are still available at stlouisblues.com. Do you want to participate, or do you want to come up on stage? Are you going to be there with us?
I'll be there that night. I'm looking forward to it. Should be a fun night. And it's an exciting time. We got a lot going on here.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you on Wednesday, Chris. Thanks so much for the time and clarifying what's going on. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Randy.
Take care. That's our buddy Chris Zimmerman, the president of the St. Louis Blues here on 101 ESPN. That has been the Centene Ice Center over the last couple of years, and it's kind of rumbled under the radar, but the financial situation over there isn't what was expected. They were really hurt by the pandemic. But like Chris said, the building is solid. They've got a 30-year lease, and now it appears as if it's in the hands of Maryland Heights to make it go.
And I'm glad you asked about the TV situation. I think that's paramount to their business. You got to make the games accessible, and people need to know where they're at. What I'm curious about is what the timeline is for that. Do you take it all the way up to the beginning of the season? Is there a deadline to where they need to let fans know this is where you can find the games? You know, Tom Stillman, when he was in studio, talked about that. It is very important to business, but he said, and this is the thing that stood out to me, and I'm paraphrasing, but it wouldn't hinder payroll, that they're still going to spend essentially to the cap and make sure that they have a competitive team on the ice.
And Dan, I asked about the Chicago Sports Network it was announced on Monday, but that's a partnership between the Blackhawks, the Bulls, and the White Sox. So the White Sox are going to be involved, which is good news for us because that tells me that the Blues and Cardinals could do something together. That's why I asked about the viability in a market this size with two teams rather than three, because ultimately, if you have a network, you need to have content.
I want to go back to the trivia night, if I can.
Yes.
Are you going to help anybody cheat?
I will offer my services as an item to be auctioned off. If somebody wants to, for a round, I will accept being auctioned off to a table. So that I can help somebody out.
Is that you saying that, or do we know that it's on the record?
I just volunteered it right now. I do that. A couple of the trivia nights that I do, towards the end when there's a sports round coming up, I'll auction myself off to benefit, obviously, said charity. And generally, I'm pretty good in trivia.
Yeah, you're pretty good at sports trivia.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd want you at general trivia.
See, if this is Blues, you don't want me in general trivia.
Okay.
No, you do not. You do, if I'm ever doing that gauntlet that they do in the afternoon, if I have random, I'm screwed. I have no chance.
Out.
Yeah.
Well, you're not the only one. That random stuff is tough.
Oh, well, but the thing is, it includes things that aren't sports, so that's my problem.
What if we dressed it up and called it potpourri instead?
No, that doesn't help.
No.
You still have history, and you still have animal questions and stuff like that. What's a
geographic?
Yeah. What is a quarter pounder called in UK?
You're not in.
No, I'm not in. I believe it's a Royale, by the way.
Is it really?
You know why?
I was going to call it a quarter pounder.
You know why in the UK? The metric system.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. Okay.
At least that's what they said.
That's what you're
Fiction.
told.
Yeah.
Right. I forgot about that. It went right over my head.
So
should have gotten that.
And what do you call a quarter pounder with cheese in the UK?
Tell us.
A Royale with cheese.
Yeah, I got you. Went right over my head initially.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
What a great movie that was.
It is.
Coming up, we've got the Rush Hour Reset on 101 ESPN.
Catch the Balloon Party with Tim McKernan and Action Jackson. Weekdays from 10 to 11 a.m. on 101 ESPN. The fastest hour of sports radio is driven by Munganast and Burkhardt Alton Toyota. Opening Drive on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Sumner One. We're recapping the biggest sports stories of the day on the Opening Drive with a Rush Hour Reset.
Dan and Randy with you on 101 ESPN. It's the Opening Drive. Happy Friday, everyone. Cardinals will play the second of 4 tonight against the Rockies over at the ballpark. And the Cardinals will face old friend Austin Gomber. He'll be on the mound for Colorado. And he's off to a good start to the season. For a long time this year, he was top 10 in ERA. He's still top 15 in ERA in the National League.
I always thought he was going to be pretty good. Lefty that could get in on righties, which is something that you always look at. Did not get in enough on Albert Pujols one time, and he hit a grand slam off him.
I remember that.
And do you remember when he used Albert, too? It was early in the game. Mm-hmm. He used him. He said, well, the bases are loaded. Ollie did, and said, might as well go for it here. I got a lefty on the mound. Maybe this is the only chance I can get. Used him there. Bam. Grand slam and a move that paid off.
Right. Yeah, I remember that was a day game. That was early on, right. Lance Lynn goes for the Cardinals, by the way. It is a 7:15 start at the ballpark. Last night, the Cardinals fall in the opener 3-2. Sonny Gray goes 4 2/3. He allows only 2 hits, but he walked 4, and he talked after the game about how he just needs to avoid nibbling early in the count.
Off the top of my head right now, I just feel like I gotta go back and start from the beginning. Go get back to the basics. Force contact early, strike one. Force guys to put the ball in play early. Get back through the middle of the plate early in the count. Not trying to be too fine early. Just get back to the middle. Everything seems to be better for me and more in my favor when I am getting ahead of guys early, and the best way that I've done that in the past is really just shoot right down the middle of the plate. I do feel like over the last probably couple weeks we've been going to more edges early, which tends to, for me, when I do that, and this is not just a new thing, but it's happened to me in the past, and I remember going through this a little bit last year where I went through a 4, 5, 6 start stretch where I just continued to walk people. And the biggest jump from that was a mindset swap to be aggressive early through the middle of the plate.
Isn't it amazing how a pitcher who's been around for 12 years in an offensive game, granted, can get so domed up like that?
I'm shocked. You know, when I hear that stuff, I kind of get surprised because at this point, you know what the benefits are of filling the strike zone.
What's the most important pitch?
Strike one.
Strike one.
Strike one. He does not have a quality start since May 12th.
Yikes.
That's a long time.
It'll be a month. The next time he pitches, it'll be a month.
His last 5 starts, just 26 1/3 innings, and he's allowed 13 runs. The other part of the game last night, Randy, so it's not only the pitching, the ineffectiveness, at least early on, from Gray, but what the Cardinals are doing with runners in scoring position. And I'm not sure this has been acknowledged enough. 1 for 7. Last night, they left 11 men on, and overall, they're hitting about .210 with runners in scoring position and averaging under 4 runs a game, which is at the near the bottom of the National League. So that is a disturbing trend right now, is what they're doing with runners in scoring position.
And I know the analytics people say there's no such thing as clutch, that what you do regularly is going to be generally what you do in a clutch situation, i.e. with runners in scoring position. Clearly not the case with this squad, though. Some teams are way better than their overall numbers with runners in scoring position, or late and tight and stuff like that. Some teams are worse. And this team, for whatever reason, I don't know if they're tight, if they squeeze the sawdust out of the bat, but man, when it is time to score or run, they just can't get a hit.
Could be young guys, too.
Yep.
You know, young guys that, and let's face it, young guys are producing right now. Wynn is hitting .311, Gorman the 14 home runs, 31 driven in, but you're counting on Burleson, another one. You're counting on the veterans to be the veterans, meaning Arenado, Goldschmidt. I think that will change with the chance to get Contreras back a little bit earlier, so that'll help in the middle of the lineup. But injuries have really hurt this club. Newpar, Edman, Walker, ineffectiveness of what's happening at center field that we talked about earlier. They're combined to hit just 161. So there's some things offensively that maybe got glossed over during that stretch of 15 games in which they went 12-3. The offense was really good in those 15 games. That's a reason that they won.
NBA Finals Game 1 last night. Boston over Dallas, 107-89. Celtics lead the series 1-0. Kristaps Porzingis with 20 points off the bench for the Celtics after he had been out for a month with the calf strain. Tomorrow night, Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals here on 101 ESPN. Panthers and Oilers, and we'll have the pregame for you at 6:30.
Florida in 6.
That's what Joey V said. You got that too?
I had Florida in 6. I just think they're going to wear down Edmonton. And Edmonton, to their credit, they get to the Stanley Cup Finals. I love watching McDavid, probably my favorite player to watch in the entirety of the NHL. But I think when they start rolling lines out like Florida does, as physical as they play, they just wear you down. I always go back to the Blues run. They're just rolling out out lines that would just pound you. And Florida's got the same kind of, to me, the same kind of mix that the Blues did 5 years ago.
Yeah, they do. They're big, they're tough, they're gritty, and obviously they're miserable to play against. And that's a hallmark of a Tkachuk, right? And Matthew Tkachuk is just a miserable, great guy. I'm not saying he's a miserable guy. He's just miserable to play against.
Wasn't that interesting what Joey said about him in Matthew Tkachuk? He said he's not the best hands, not the best skater, not the best shooter, but man, he just does everything else right. He knows the game, knows where he's supposed to be, and he outcompetes the opponent. And I think when you watch a game and you watch him and just follow him on the ice, They don't outcompete him, and that's what takes him to another level.
And if you haven't watched a lot of the West, Evan Bouchard has emerged as a superstar for Edmonton. 18 games, he's got 27 points. He's a defenseman with 6 goals and 21 assists. He's been fantastic in these playoffs, and that's probably because McDavid and Draisaitl are obvious, right? But the guy that you have to contain for them right now is Bouchard because he can do so much.
I'm not sure you can contain McDavid.
Just do what you can.
He's going to get his points. He's going to get his assists. He's going to wind up with 2 or 3 points. When they win, it might even be more than that. And you're right. I think the only way you can try to do is just lessen the blow that he's going to deliver, because he will deliver a blow. He's probably the number 1 player in the world, and there's a reason that he is.
That is your Rush Hour Reset here on 101 ESPN. Coming up, talk a little golf. We missed our buddy Jay Delsing, he's gone fishing this week.
Went fishing in Canada.
Good for him.
Yep.
Are the PGA Tour and LIV ever going to merge? That's coming your way on 101 ESPN.
In celebration of We Went Blues Day this Wednesday, June 12th, 101 ESPN is giving away a bunch of signed blues items, autographed by some of the current and former blues players who meant so much to that 2019 Stanley Cup championship team. You can enter to win signed jerseys from Colton Parayko and Vladimir Tarasenko, signed pucks from Robert Thomas, and more. Check out all those awesome blues giveaways in celebration of We Went Blues Day going on right now, either at 101ESPN.com or your 101 mobile app. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Lynn locks horns with Gomber. I'm Bradford Bruns with your Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Tonight at 7:15, Lance Lynn draws the mound assignment for 29 and 32 St. Louis. Colorado captured yesterday's series opener downtown 3-2, but Black's group remains mired in last place out west. He rolls with ex-Cardinal Austin Gomber. Here, elsewhere, Central leading Milwaukee visits Detroit. Pittsburgh hosts Minnesota. Tomorrow, 101 ESPN has you taken care of regarding pucks as well. Edmonton, Florida kick off Stanley Cup final action just after 6. Opening drive guest Joey Vitale will closely monitor one Connor McDavid.
Time actually is of the essence, I would say, for Connor McDavid. This is something he needs to take full advantage of, but I just feel like the big roadblock for the Edmonton Oilers right now is a team with better goaltending, more physical, more depth, and a very disciplined team where they're not going to find themselves on as many power plays.
This Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Live from the Car Shield studio, this is the opening drive on 101 ESPN.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Danny Mac, Randy Karraker, the opening drive on 101 ESPN. It was 1 year ago yesterday that we got the stunning news that the PGA Tour and LIV were going to essentially merge. That LIV, at least what we thought, was going to buy the PGA Tour. It's been a year, Dan, and this weekend, 125 of the world's top golfers, according to the Sports Business Journal, will be competing for $45 million in prize money. Problem is, they won't all be playing against one another.
Isn't it it's a shame.
Yep.
I mean, that's the shame of the whole thing. I was watching the Memorial, which is a great tournament, elevated event put on by Jack and Barbara Nicholas in Ohio, and it's always one of the great stops in which the players will make sure and make a point to be there out of their respect for Jack Nicklaus, and it's a shame. I mean, they do have top players, but you're missing DeChambeau, who's playing great.
He is.
You're missing Koepka, who would be in contention probably. DJ is out. Patrick Reed is out. These are all players, I mean, just equated to another sport, and they took out Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado. All these guys jumped, and you'd sit there and say, well, this is a lesser league because of it. This is not as fun. Paul Skeens is a young gun, and he says, well, I don't really want to pitch for these guys because Yasser's going to give me $300 million, and how do I pass that up? Which, to an extent, I don't blame the players for doing that. But I think in the end, they're going to get their cake and eat it too. I do. I think these players are going to be made whole on the PGA Tour, and then the guys that jump to LIV are going to get their money but be able to come back to the PGA Tour.
The problem is we've got these, for example, DJ's closing in on 40, and generally you don't win majors when you're past 40 years old, and the tours are putting together their schedules right now for 2025. So if you have sponsors, if you're LIV or the PGA Tour for 2025, it kind of sets you back to 2026 is the next time that you could bring everybody back together.
Would you want to see a world tour?
No, I don't. Because the PGA Tour is an American institution, and the reason that these guys make a ton of money is because of the USA and companies in the United States that have sponsored the PGA Tour for years. Globally, would it help? Sure. Would it get more eyes on what they have? Yes. Although there are tours in every part of the world, just not the best golfers. But I don't think that loyal stops on the PGA Tour should be just dismissed because somebody wants to play a tournament in Indonesia.
Here's the other thing I look at with LIV, and I think they're going to have a problem with this, and I don't know if you agree, so hear me out. They've taken some of the biggest names, right? Mm-hmm. Names that are household names in golf. Now you have this next wave of young players coming that people don't know about. You may hear their name every once in a while, and it probably doesn't resonate when they're atop a leaderboard of a non-elevated event. And where does LIV get some of their players? I mean, they've already taken Rahm. We've already taken DeChambeau. You've taken Mickelson. You've taken DJ. You've taken P. Reed. But the next wave of PGA Tour players, in my opinion, and I'm a guy that follows it fairly closely, I don't even know some of the names that are on the PGA Tour. And it's a problem for both. So if you're going to ask some of these young guys to jump, is the juice worth the squeeze? Because people pretty much don't know who they are anyway. So when you made the initial investment to bring these big names over, there was the splash. And what I'm talking about is the second wave of players. You don't really know who they are.
And one of the problems that you'll have if you're a young live golfer is that you haven't been able to accumulate any world golf ranking points, right? So people like Kali Samuja or Adrian Moronk or Eugenio Chikara or David Puig, those guys, Junicho Kozuma, they don't have any cachet in trying to make PGA Tour events. They're going to have to wind up going to the Korn Ferry Tour and getting their card that way, because people that have stayed committed to becoming tour members are way ahead in terms of the world golf rankings points and their ability just to go out and win a tournament to make the PGA Tour.
That's like some of the biggest names are like 300th in the world now. And you know they're not the 300th best golfer. They're probably top 10. But that's the difference, Randy, with the PGA Tour. And you need to differentiate this. There's the PGA Tour and the PGA of America.
Right.
And we talked a little bit about this yesterday. I thought the PGA Championship showed the pathway on how to do this, is that there's invitations out to live players to come play. Now, it's a major, and they're allowed to do that. But there was invitations to non-major winners that were allowed to come in to elevate the event to where you want to watch. U.S. Open will be interesting next weekend because some players that you love will not be competing in it. We should mention, by the way, St. Louis native Chris Nagel, or at least call St. Louis home. Chris Nagel did qualify for the U.S. Open, so that's going to be cool to watch. But that's one of the biggest problems I have, is just the notoriety of players that aren't playing in these events. And it's a problem. I actually think, I don't know if you guys agree with this, but the dominance of Scottie Scheffler has been good for the sport.
Great.
I think they needed this, and it's come at the right time, and he's dominating. And I think he's only one off the lead or two off the lead after day one of the Memorial. But his dominance, when we talk about, man, I'm sick of this guy winning or that guy winning, this has been good for the sport.
And Dan, in golf or in any sport really for that matter, I pride myself on, I relish seeing those guys who are indisputably elite, and to see Scottie Scheffler ascend to that point over the past few years. I think that we've gone through a number of different PGAers, even dating back a few years ago to Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, guys I believe we thought would be there for the long haul. And you have peaks and valleys. We all understand that. But as far as sustained dominance, somebody on whom you can count now for tournament after tournament, nobody's better than Scottie Scheffler. And in the years to come, he could end up being that transcendent guy to whom to attach.
And I think the big guys are going to be fine. The big guys on both tours are going to be fine, right? The DJs are going to be fine. The Roms are going to be fine. All DeChambeau, they'll come back and be fine. But here's my question. You put together a 144-player field, okay? And whatever tournament you are, and you talk about invitations. A guy named Justin Lauer has played in 52 PGA events, and he's 141st in world golf ranking points. Do you take somebody that you've never heard of from LIV and offer an invitation over a guy who has stayed loyal to you to the tune of 52 events?
I think you got to stay with the loyalty.
I think so, too. And so that's why I think the people that are going to wind up in the long run being hurt most by this are the 20-year-olds that went to LIV thinking that there was a future there.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at with jumping for these young kids and how the viability of LIV could work. Now, they have endless amounts of money. I get it. But what would be the interest level to watching some of these kids that you've never heard of that are competing on the PGA Tour but jump to LIV? Now, the competition will get better for LIV, but you don't know the names. Mm-hmm. So are you really going to follow it? Because it's an individual sport. You follow Rory. You follow Scheffler. Now Xander Schauffele. These are names that you know. And to Bradford's point, by the way, of having a dominant golfer, Rory has not been dominant.
No.
He has not won the majors since, I think his last is 12 or 14 years ago. So you need a guy like Scheffler to kind of be the face of this thing moving forward.
And it'd be nice to have a Phil to Scheffler's Tiger, right? Whether that winds up being Xander Schauffele or whomever, it'd be nice to have somebody who's competing on a regular basis that you say, okay, that guy's capable of beating Scotty Scheffler.
Absolutely. Couple villains mixed in there. P. Reed would be perfect back in.
Yeah.
People think he cheats.
No, he's Captain America.
He's Captain America is right in the Ryder Cup. By the way, should I promote what we have this weekend?
Yes, on the Golf with Jay Delsing and Danny Mac show from 8 to 10 on Sunday morning.
Cool one is going to be one of our guests, Barbara Nicholas, the wife of Jack Nicklaus. So you have the memorial going on, and one of the things we'll get into with her is the Play Yellow initiative, which is nationwide. They have raised hundreds of millions of dollars for children's hospitals. There's a Play Yellow initiative here in St. Louis. And then speaking of the PGA of America, this is a story, if you're a golf fan here locally, that doesn't get enough attention. The national secretary of the PGA of America is the head pro out at Winghaven. His name is Nathan Carnes. Mm-hmm. He will graduate at some point to being the president of the PGA of America here within the next, I think, 3 to 5 years. And we've got him in our own backyard, so he'll be one of the guests too.
Awesome. That'll be great to have on Sunday morning. By the way, over at the memorial, Adam Hadwin is the leader after one round. Scotty Scheffler is in second place. He's 2 shots off the lead, so I don't think anybody will be surprised if Scotty wins again.
Did you know that Jack Nicklaus was recruited to play basketball at Ohio State?
I did not know that.
I've heard about every story you can ever hear about Jack Nicklaus, and he said, well, I looked up, and there's John Havlicek, and there's a couple other guys that are about a foot taller than me. And he
Jerry
said,
Lucas.
Jerry Lucas was the other one he mentioned. He said, I better stick to golf.
He made the right choice
for sure.
No doubt. Coming up here on 101 ESPN, we're going to head down the stretch with Burnin' with Bradford Bruns here on 101 ESPN.
NBA Finals are on ESPN. This Sunday, Celtics and Mavericks Game 2. Pre-game at 6. Tip-off at 7. Your home for the NBA is 101 ESPN. This is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Sumner One. I want to rock.
and roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
We're burning with Bruns here, and before we get started with Bradford, we're going to give away some Cardinal tickets. 101 ESPN presenting your chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to next Tuesday night's Budweiser Bash game for the Cardinals and Pirates, at which they will honor Jason Isringhausen with a bobblehead. He said that's from when they won the division in 2004, right? And he's got his arms in the air. Yep. It's a beautiful Jason Isringhausen bobblehead, and you can get all the details on all of the Cardinal Budweiser Bash games at cardinals.com/promotions. But you can text in now, and Izzy, you are not allowed to win this, but text in now if you'd like to win 4 tickets to the game and the Izzy bobbleheads. 314-399-9646. 314-399 Yo-ho! Dan doesn't have to win the Budweiser Bash tickets for Tuesday, June 11th at Busch Stadium. And here is today's question. Jason Isringhausen, as you may or may not know, is the Cardinals' all-time leader in saves for the franchise. Whose record did he break to become the all-time Cardinals saves leader? That is today's question. And if you are texter, guess he was number 44. We'll go back to 44. Texter number 44 gets the tickets for the Budweiser Bash game on Tuesday.
You know, we were talking about great closers in Cardinals history before we get to Bradford. I think someone that we need to look in. We were talking about the Cardinals Hall of Fame earlier with Carpenter and Goldie and Arenado, but one Al Raboski. What about the Mad Hungarian getting to the Cardinals Hall of Fame? I think he should be in, and I think he will get in, and I hope he does.
I have long thought that Al should be in the Hall of Fame, and I believe now to be one of the old-timers representatives, and I think Whitey Karofsky is going in this year as the old-timer, you have to be 40 years since your last game, and I think next year Al will be. So hopefully he'll go in next year as the old-timers electee.
Also, all his service to the club, to the city, what he's done charitably. He's all over the place and still working for the Cardinals, doing a bunch of ambassador work for them. So, to me, it's a slam dunk. He should be in.
And not only a Cardinal Hall of Fame player, but and you just referenced that, a Cardinal Hall of Fame person.
Yep.
He's just a great guy. So I hope that next year Al does make the Cardinal Hall of Fame.
Randy, I'm going to have to let the title burn in with Bruns marinate for a little bit, but right. I do appreciate the alteration there. Let's talk a bit about last night's NBA Finals Game 1 affair here that you heard on 101 ESPN. We know by now Boston routed Dallas. It was 107-89. Jason Tatum didn't even particularly have his best effort, 6 turnovers, admitted, yes, that has to be cleaned up. Still went for a double-double. Jaylen Brown did a bit of everything, as did Derek White. On the Dallas side, Luka got his customary 30. But for Kyrie Irving, it was a tough road of it. 6 of 19 shooting, turning the ball over left and right. And earlier this morning, before we came on Sportsmanlike, Evan Cohen, our friend Michelle Smallman, and Chris Canty took umbrage with some comments that Kyrie had following that game.
It's basketball at the end of the day. You know, being in this environment, I'm used to it at this point. You know, early in my career, there was a different relationship that I had with Boston, just being able to come here, be settled with a veteran group. Now I'm here as the veteran. Over the past few years, just experiencing the playoffs here, even regular season, it's been the same thing. I thought it was going to be a little louder in here, but I'm expecting the same things going into Game 2. Crowd trying to get me out of my element, my teammates out of my element. But again, the energy's got to be focused towards the game.
Now, Michelle had a modulated perspective here, listening to her. I don't understand right now. There seems to be an uproar, not just in the Beantown area, but across league circles and whatnot. Kyrie, after an outspoken, shall we say, to put it politely, several-year period, has been a model citizen in Big D this year. That's subtle shade, perhaps, but in referring to his 2-year period there in Boston, we know that it didn't turn out well. We know that it didn't produce any championship banners. But the fact of the matter, last night, I'm not concerned about the subtle shade that Kyrie Irving threw, but rather, are we going to get a series whatsoever after the demolition that we witnessed? Boston, Randy, you referenced it at the top of the show, 37 points in the first quarter. This one wasn't even close, and I have extreme concerns about Dallas and its defense wanting to pack the paint, being able to defend whatsoever with the athleticism and the ball movement of the Celtics.
Okay, two things. Is the shade that he said he thought it'd be louder?
Yeah.
Yes.
So what?
It will be louder on Sunday.
Can you imagine when he touches the ball on Sunday?
It's going to be louder. So that's great. It's great for sports, great for basketball. Here's the other part of this. I always go back to this, and it's the old Nick Saban line. Every play, every game takes on a life of its own. Last night, the Celtics had the third largest lead at halftime in the history of the NBA Finals. The number one lead at halftime in the history of the finals was Game 1 in 1985, which was called the Memorial Day Massacre, where they led the Lakers by 40 at the half, killed the Lakers in the game, but then who wins the series?
Right.
The Lakers do. Every game is going to be different, and I will not be at all surprised if the Mavs win Game 2.
I can't wait until he touches the basketball on Sunday. You talk about a raucous crowd, which I thought they were pretty raucous anyway. I didn't think they were sitting back on their hands. I thought they were pretty loud. And when he touched the ball, they got after him a little bit. But now, can you imagine like talk radio this morning in Boston?
Awesome.
I mean, they're just lighting that comment up. I thought they'd be a little louder. Just wait till Sunday.
Yeah. And you
They'll
know
be
what?
Plenty loud.
That'll fire him up.
Probably.
It will be great theater on Sunday night.
Good, because the one thing that we have come to understand over the last few seasons, yes, we know predominantly he was LeBron's running mate in Cleveland, even though the shot that essentially won them the finals in conjunction with the block came from Kyrie Irving. At this stage of his career, though, Dan, you mentioned, of course, the unparalleled ball handling skills. As far as like the pantheon of stars, because he's the clear number 2 in Dallas to Luka, we understand that. Perhaps elevated a little bit, maybe over a Jaylen Brown, but as far as guards you'd want in today's league, he's 32 now. Is he still at that elite level for you?
For me, with not a complimentary player, but a superstar, absolutely. That elevates his game, and he's able to be elevated on the other side of it, absolutely.
Now that he understands his role, he is. And it takes sometimes, well, every time it's hard. It was hard for Scottie Pippen to figure out, I don't know if he ever did, that he wasn't a number one. And Kyrie, he didn't want to live in LeBron's shadow. Well, he was a great player in LeBron's shadow. But then when he figured out that he wasn't a number one, whether it was with Boston or Brooklyn, he had to go to Dallas to be told by the owner, look, you're the number 2. You aren't the guy. The guy is number 77. I believe that Kyrie has figured it out.
Brooklyn was a debacle. When you think back to 2017 and 18, when he had a chance to help elevate a young Jason Tatum in Boston to prominence, they lost to LeBron in Cleveland. And then the following year was really funky. Toronto won that random NBA title over Milwaukee. But just then, Giannis was beginning to rise to prominence too. And I do wonder, Randy, if there's some aspect, some undercurrent here. Yes, still a premier talent, but at the same time, 32, you're closer, I would say, to not necessarily the twilight, but the back end of your career than the foremost athleticism. I don't know how many other organizations would be willing to put up with the same song and dance.
No, I think this is not going to be, well, it might be his last stop, but this is his last best opportunity. Let's look at it that way. And eventually, he'll just fall off the edge of the earth.
The earth is flat, according to Kyrie. Oh, man.
Kyrie's world, we're just living in it.
Yeah, it is. You want to tell people who the Cardinal save leader was before Izzy broke his record?
One Lee Smith. Mm-hmm. Lee Smith was the guy, and Lee used to take little naps during the game.
He's the best.
And then they'd say, okay, Lee, 6th inning, go ahead and get loose, get stretched out, and he'd come in and dominate.
Sometimes in the back of a pickup, in the bed of a pickup truck beyond the right field gate.
Right.
Yeah.
We had him on a show, I guess it was about 4 years ago. Randy, you were around him a lot at that time. He was awesome.
Oh, he was always the same, whether he blew a save or whether he got the save. He was always the same jovial, fun guy.
I was thinking about like top 5 guys, Todd Worrell, and one that and you told me I was right about this, but Trevor Rosenthal was up there. He had that,
fifth all time.
49 save season, I think it was. 48, yeah. So there's some guys up there, and that may surprise you on that top 5 list of the all-time saves leaders.
Yeah, and Rosie, man, if he wouldn't have gotten hurt, his stuff and his demeanor were perfect for that job.
I think he's only 32 right now.
Yeah.
32 years
He's
old.
still here in town, too. You see him around now and then. Great job today by our producer and audio and video engineer, Bradford Bruns. Are you still with us on Monday?
I am not. Matt is back. He's
okay.
enjoying some, well-deserved time, I believe, in the Sunshine State this weekend. So always a pleasure. Thanks to you guys. You make it easy, as well as all of those in the chat room, as well as on the text lines. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, sir. Daniel,
Great job,
awesome.
Bradford. You're awesome, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
We will be back with you on Tuesday with Dan. And BK is going to be with me on Monday morning. And best of luck to our partner, Brooke Grimsley, who's getting married tomorrow and then heading off for her honeymoon. So we wish her the very best and congratulations.
And you'll be there, right?
I will be there representing.
You going in like with a 101 T-shirt?
Yes, I am. Yeah, with a tux with a 101 T-shirt.
That'd look good.
For all of us, we thank you for tuning in, texting in, and being a part of the show. Don't just have a great weekend. Have an American weekend.
That's right.
Attention 101 listeners.
You can join Kyle Gibson, Tommy Edmond, Paul Goldschmidt, Ryan Helsley, Nolan Arenado, Stephen Matz, and Miles Michaelis
In supporting some amazing causes during Big League Impact's All Win campaign.
Consider making a donation in exchange for fun prizes and giveaways from Big League Impact. See the full list of foundations and programs being supported by this year's campaign and find all the details on how you can help support this year's all-win drive.
With Big League Impact, now at 101ESPN.com.